content of this channel is for mature audiences. Parental discretion is advised. You're tuned in to the Green Gorilla channel. Please make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell notification button. And please, feel free to share the video. Thank you. What's good, everybody? What's cracking with y'all, man? I'm GG. You tuned in to the Green Gorilla channel. You know what time it is, man. It's just a place where black men can express themselves freely, straight up with no chasers. You know how I go. I go hard in the paint, bro. And before I get things started, I want to, as I usually do, give a shout out to the haters, first of all. How y'all doing? And if you haven't done so already, while you're coming in, man, make sure you hit the like button, subscribe button, and the bell notification button. Routine, And like I always do, I want to give a shout out to all the members of the Green Gorilla channel. So let me start that process and let me move through it rather expeditiously. So shout out to Lord Hamal, Jermaine Kamal, Brotherly Love, Adrian Thomas, J. Cleveland Green, Outside the Cube, Lee Ways, Electrician 480, Gabinga O, Herbert Lewis, Cutting Up with the Jones, Sandco 1, D. Scott, Julius Ferguson, Path Guy, Black Swerve 404, Pete Rock 496, Tahuti of New Comet, Gold Professor, Aaron Peters, Bonolas, Dardar, Michael Ross, Vincent Lindsay, Michael Pierce, Beautiful Trauma, Quiz the Poet, Black Quizzard 80OS, Jazz Tech, Shadow Observer, Sugar T, Artisan MC, Nasiana, Kyle J. Sura, Kareem, Troy Warren, Jeff R., Mrs. K.P. Bailey, Ricky Dawson, Alan Wiley, The Face, Mantis on Break, Life of Commerce, True 7360, Marvin Evans, A. Wilson's Ghost, Timothy Blewett, Jeffrey Speed, Marvin Battle Jr., Mark Holt, John J., Afro Troop TV, Adam, BGS Ibmore, Ignatz Mouse, Brian Peaks, Papa Didas, Scott Haywood, Black Uru Strikes, Dr. Tree 33, Leroy Honeycutt, Broken Blaze, Supertech, 77 Base X, Brian McMurray, Karen S., Anthony Davis, Seven Coast Dojo, Charles Rogers, Rick Ross, Sandra Jean, Charles Gilmore, Patricia Colley, Greg, Barry Little, Mr. Valentino, Jason Hales, Black Men Being Brutally Honest, Cameron 87, Doc LaRock, Mark Swift, Odd Collard, Donald Watts, Coach Hotep, Old Soul Chief, Mr. Blue Collar, I'm Just Jules, TD Hip Hop Media, Drew Main, Mr. Heat, Sir Anthony, ML Law, Universal 178, Rasheed Barnes, Aaron Smith, DH, The Revelator, Aaron Infinite, and Dr. T. Hasan Johnson. And on the Patreon side, I want to give a shout out to J Live, Rashawn Phillips, Keith Bass, or Keith Bass, Nick, Malcolm Smith, Rock One, Albert C, Dr. Ben Vincent, I Am the Light of My Father, Waffle Weave, William Joyner, Tyrone Hampton, Darnell Smith, Excalibur, Anu 219, Prisoner Taz, Dragon 59, Jay Bailey, Mr. Michi, Momal, and the Sangwa. Big up to all of y'all, man. And I can't forget the brother, man, David Carroll. I can't forget the brother Forrest Windu and the brother Kevin Samuels, man. May they all rest in heaven. And if you're worried about, ways in which, or you're wondering about the ways in which you can support the Green Gorilla channel on an ongoing basis, man, here's how you do it, and we'll be back with the facts. What's good, everybody? I'm the G with a PhD, and you're tuned in to the Green Gorilla channel, the place where black men can express themselves freely. Straight up, no chaser. Today I want to introduce you to my new membership program that consists of 5 levels where you can invest in the Green Gorilla channel on a monthly basis and receive level-specific perks. Memberships are special because they improve the quality of the content of the channel and will help me to be able to keep the channel going. Now, to participate in the Green Gorilla channel membership program, all you have to do is hit the join button, which is located right next to the subscribe button on my channel page. Now, for all of my subscribers who decide not to participate in my membership program, nothing will change. The content will keep coming the way it always has. Thanks for watching, and be careful out here, people. Bless. All right, man, we back. I'm GG, of course. You tuned in to the Green Gorilla channel. It's the place where black men can express themselves freely, straight up with no chases. I brought a guest today. You already know. Sorry about the disruption real fast. But what's up, Doc Johnson? How you doing, bro?
I'm good, man. How about yourself?
Man, I'm always to the good. You know, just chilling.
That's right.
Know, staying out of trouble, man. Staying out of harm's way. You know, I guess living life as an incel is hard, right?
Oh, shit.
Because that's what we get accused of being and shit, you know. We incels now. You know, I'm saying that in response to Jamel Hill, you know, in her recent comments about Malika being critiqued in relation to Stephen A. Smith, you know. Kevin Samuels and the incel energy and all of that. You know, like that the two go hand in hand. You know.
Because you can't talk
man,
about
we got
That's really what it comes down to. You can't talk about black women. That's really what it comes down to. You gotta take their critiques, but you can't return them.
Yeah, they can call you all kind of dusties and shit. I heard her say that shit too, using that Cynthia G language. You know, like we dusty and crusty over here. Ain't got a pot to piss in or a window to throw it out of. Ain't got no kids.
Right.
Never even, you know, smelt the essence of vaginal juices or nothing, you know. I'm just being honest. Like we ain't never come into contact with the poontang or whatever the case may be, you know. And I'm being a little raunchy here, but come on, man. Like that's the best you can do.
Right.
Here's the deal, man. If you're in the public purview, you're going to be critiqued publicly. It just is what it is. It's part of the territory. You can't ask or expect to be a member of a group of persons who constantly are engaged in critique and then turn back around when you get critique, try to reduce it to misogyny. Like, how does that shit work, man? So, in other words, I'm untouchable, but I can touch each and every one of you. I can say anything I want to each and every one of you, but as soon as somebody says something to me, then that's oppression, that's sexism, that's misogyny, and I'm not about to deal with that. Man, I say, man, come on, man, stop that. Cut it out, man. But today we didn't come here today to talk about that, man. We really didn't. Today we came to talk about policy and how it impacts black men. Okay. And in particular, we're going to talk about the 94 crime bill. And like one of the brothers here who said, I think it's Money Mike, he mentioned in a chat, he says, I hope you also talk about the Anti-Drug Abuse Act of 1988 that created the crack versus cocaine sentencing disparities. Joe Biden helped with that too. That is a fact. Although we're not going to focus on that specifically, but it's worth a mention because it is the case that, the 94 crime bill builds upon earlier acts and earlier bills and earlier trends in policy, punitive policy that has had a deleterious impact on black men. So it's not as if, the 94 crime bill is the only instance in which there's been draconian punishment issued out in the American public, but specifically to deal with problems of a specific demographic. You know what the demographic is, Doc Johnson. You know what it is.
I wonder what it is.
You know what it is.
I don't know.
So anyway, man, what I want to do is I'm gonna read an article first, and then after that, we're going to read another article that kind of counterbalances that one, and then we're going to read excerpts from an adumbration of the 94 crime bill. And we're going to talk about the various ways in which this bill, which is now like actually a law, how it has had a negative impact on black men for the most part, okay? Now, the people who created this bill, who authored it, who, shepherded it into passing, they're like at the head of the Democratic Party now. Mm-hmm. They run it. So, to have any kind of hesitancy about trusting these people to do what's best for us, I just don't get it. Like, I don't see why a lot of black men are just full sail devoted to the Democratic Party and these people when you know that they've done some very, unscrupulous things in relation to our well-being, our ability to thrive and to function and to flourish in this culture.
The trick, man, is there are plenty of brothers that really just walked away from the entire process. And instead of actually having people ask them why or reflect upon what their motivations might be, they're cast as being, unintelligent, incapable of keeping up with politics, not capable of really understanding the importance of it. They get smeared and dismissed rather than having many of them, engaged to the point where you understand that they walked away intentionally because they understood neither political party. Look, not only has neither political party done much, how different is the quality of life for black men under a Republican or Democratic presidency? How different is it for us? I mean, I've been asking this question in the last couple months, how different is it? So, so when brothers walk away, it's dismissed, but people don't want to look at what the underlying structures are, issues are.
That's because they really don't care about our best interest. They care about what they can get from the party. Like, I mean, let's just call a spade, man. Like, the Democratic Party is the party of white women.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it is what it is. It's the white woman's the neoliberal white woman's party, or the progressive liberal feminist woman's party. That's their party.
Right.
I mean, it is what it is. And the extent to which black women hitch their wagon to it, we understand that you're able to get some gimmies, goodies, and grab-ems on account of being a woman because the 64 Civil Rights Act, Title VII, however you want to name it, I mean, it basically gave everything that was supposed to go to black folks, it just gave them to white women.
Yeah, pretty much. I
mean, it is what it is.
Mm-hmm.
So if like black people, I don't know why they are just figuring this out. Like they're just coming to the awareness or the realization that that's what's happened. But it is what it is. Okay? So Golden Shepherd, let me do some housekeeping real quick. It ain't going to be long. Golden Leopard says Malcolm X warned us. Indeed he did. He said don't get used like a political football. Dar, thank you so much for your donation. Appreciate that. Rogus son, you're always good with me. And Sam C, man, shout out to him. And another super chat that's no longer able for me. I'm no longer able to see it from John Jones. Shout out to him as well. Thank you. But moving right along. So let's look at this article. The first thing I want to do is look at this article. So let me make sure I can pull it up here. Present. Yeah, they always doing something different, ain't they? They done changed from share to present screen.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I found that out the other night. Something's wrong.
Like, what is this, bro? Okay. What is this? Can you see that?
Yeah, I can see it.
Because I don't know if I don't know if you can see it. So
yeah.
All right. Mm-hmm. So anyway, this is an article published by the Brennan Center for Justice, and it's written by a woman by the name of Lauren Brooke Eisen, and it talks about the '94 crime bill and beyond, how federal funding shapes the criminal justice system. Okay. And, the subtitle for the article is The '94 Crime Bill Has a Complicated Legacy, Dominated by Funding Incentives Blamed for Driving Mass Incarceration. A quarter century later, there are numerous proposals to undo the damage. Okay? So the article is written 3 years ago. Okay? And I think most of the issues related to this bill came up during Biden's election, because a lot of people were critical of Biden in this regard. Okay. But it seems like, we don't have a political memory. So, every election cycle we forget. And then maybe sometimes these issues come up again. But, as a black man voting for Biden, man, one could consider that like highly problematic. Like this bill here, man, and his support of these draconian laws. and they had a direct impact on the livelihood of black men. But anyway,
Right.
the article, and it's like about 2,000 words, like I said to you in the back chat. So the article says on September 23rd, September 13 marks 25 years since the signing of the most far-reaching crime bill Congress ever passed. So just starting from there, this is the biggest crime bill ever passed in American history.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? Standing in front of a crowd of uniformed police officers, President Bill Clinton extolled the crime-fighting potential in the Violent Crime Control and Law Enforcement Act of 94, now commonly referred to as the 94 Crime Bill. The law's legacy is complicated. It contained powerful funding incentives that ensnared more Americans in the ever-widening net of the criminal justice system. But many of its provisions also protected communities and victims of crimes, like an assault weapons ban and protections for women in abusive relationships. Now, there we go. We already starting with some bullshit. we already starting with some bullshit. What are your initial thoughts about that?
No, you're absolutely on it. We can see I mean, because abuse became feminists' way of cornering the market on something that they argued that really only women experience. And this was, I think, something people missed. This was the white feminist with the black feminist on her coattails mobilizing a political agenda. And this is why I've been calling black women's behavior politically for the last couple decades as a political coup within the black community, because they're following the white white feminist political agenda. They're just applying it in black America. But this whole push around the violence against women was always a political coup. And it's been filtered through the Democrats primarily because, as you said, this was the party of white women. So we don't regard it as that. As soon as we hear abuse, everybody goes back to either what they've experienced or what we've seen in movies, which is all about programming. But the reality of it is this was always the vehicle for white feminist political mobilization.
Bam. I mean, I couldn't have said it any better. I mean, prior to the Violence Against Women's Act, you had the Family, Violence Act. I think that was the name of the act. Okay. But then they gendered it and they made it specifically something for women. And this is a political coup. I mean, it's exactly what you say it is. And the funny thing about it is, as scholars, we've done the research on this issue ad nauseum. We've presented it on many different occasions on this show. Women are just as likely, if not more likely than men, to initiate violent actions against their intimate partners. But nobody acknowledges this anymore. And principally, it's because of the 94 crime bill. Like, once you create laws, it's difficult to reverse them. Because, you've set a trajectory. And oftentimes when you create these laws, right, the only way that they can be changed is through judicial review, or you have to create, a new set of laws to address the problems. You have to amend them.
Right.
Okay. Which is almost damn near impossible to do. Okay. Because once something is on the books, it's there. And so, you got legal professionals, policymakers, activists, and everybody. They all utilize these laws to their benefit and to their advantage. I remember you did a show not too long ago, man, where a man called the police on his wife who had him at knife point. The police come into the house. What's the first thing they do? Yeah. They attack him. Shoot and kill him dead. They shoot him dead.
You know what's so cold about that? They shot him, even though the son. Now, first of all, she had a knife to his neck to the point where he had to tell his son to go call the police. Police show up. They shoot him. They take her to the hospital just to make sure she's okay. This is how cold it is.
Man, propaganda.
The aggressor.
Man, propaganda is a hell of a thing, man.
Indeed.
And it's at the point now where you can have women who actually have been like formally charged and prosecuted for violent crimes against their partners, now they become like the mascots for violence against women.
Yes.
Like Amber Heard.
Mm-hmm.
Like, how is it possible that a woman like this who committed an act of battery against a female intimate partner, how in the fuck is she able to become a representative for violence against women? How?
Yeah.
And the same for Megan Thee Stallion. No, I'm not trying to throw shade on nobody, man. Ain't nobody perfect out here. But the problem is there's a difference in acknowledgement of who does what, who's culpable for what in this culture related to violence, especially in intimate partner relationships. And I find this very problematic, man. At some point, we got to do a show about the Violence Against Women Act.
Indeed.
I think we have to devote or allocate some time, effort, and energy into that, okay? Now, let me just push forward, though, because I don't want to stay here forever. It says, overall, though the law is now seen by many as a major driver of mass incarceration, for that reason, policymakers who played a role in pushing it forward, including Bernie Sanders and Joe Biden, have been attacked for supporting it. Today, though, there are numerous proposals, such as reverse mass incarceration, which Biden now supports, that aim to undo the damage caused by the bill. An excessive focus on punishment to control crime. A lot of ink has been spilled trying to point the finger at exactly how the U.S. became the world's #1 incarcerated. Wonder how, huh? I have a guess. I have a hypothesis.
Yeah.
To serve, protect, and to break a nigga's neck.
Yeah.
How about that? Try that on for size.
Yeah, at the expense of black men. And everybody's this is what actually the history of Twilight Zone actually comes out of the death of Emmett Till. So it's appropriate when we say this shit is like the Twilight Zone. But when everybody is good with black men being the primary group incarcerated for crimes that everybody commits, or the primary group killed, and everybody's good with it, this is truly some Twilight Zone shit.
It is. It's our experience, It is what it is. So look, going on. Today, 6.7 million people are under some sort of correctional control. Land of the free, right? Approximately 2.3 million are behind bars in jails and prisons, and 4.5 million are on probation and parole. Our punitive response to crime played a critical role. From 1960 to 1980, violent crime soared 270%. I wonder why. We talking about from the 60s to the 80s. What happened from the 60s to the 80s?
Wow, there was a couple of things.
Well, one of the things I know is that the country had began to deindustrialize. They started to outsource jobs. And, the Civil Rights Act had just passed in 64. But you still had rioting and things on the street because not very much changed in terms of the life prospects of a lot of black people mired in, inner city environments.
Right. You had massive protests taking place. You had uprisings taking place all over the country. And then in response to that, under Nixon, you had the war on drugs.
And wasn't it you that came up with like the explanation for what Nixon utilized as a reason for the war on drugs?
Well, his cabinet came forward and they said it just a few years ago that some of the remnants that are still alive said, we targeted those who were protesting the war and black folk. He said those were the two primary groups we targeted with the war on drugs. But it had an unparalleled impact in the black community. And you and I are in the same generation. So you let me know if you had a different experience. But I remember going to cities like Oakland that at one point were chocolate. And within a matter of a couple of years, it looked like Beirut.
Man,
I mean,
ain't
I
that
had
something?
family members I haven't seen since the early 1980s that fucking vanished. Do you hear me?
Yeah,
Gone. Tell me you didn't see that.
man. You know, in the 80s, I was, 10 years old, man. You know, in the 90s, I was 20. You understand? And so,
Mhm.
I remember what my neighborhood used to look like.
Right.
It was all black middle class.
Mm.
Then they turned, they tore down Pruitt-Igoe housing projects in downtown St. Louis. And, a lot of the poorer population began to move into the inner city on the north side of St. Louis.
Mm.
And, there was the white, and then other blacks moved to North County, but then there was, more and more white flight. So you had black flight from poor black folks, which, my mother was like, fuck that, I ain't going nowhere. Okay. But, a lot of black folks decided to up and run because they felt like it was an undesirable population. It's that Pookie argument again. But as far as I'm concerned, you're dealing with a group of people who've been dispossessed, okay? They don't have very much to work with in terms of social capital. And you don't invest in them, you divest in their punishment.
Mm-hmm.
You invest in their criminalization.
Yeah.
And this is what America has done. They've built like the largest prison industrial complex in the world.
Yeah.
But it's the land of the free.
And you can buy stock in it.
The land of the free. And everybody's cool with this though. And the funny thing about it is, man, before, all of y'all start with the Pookie and the Ray Ray language and all that bullshit, let me just show you something. Let me stop sharing one thing and I'm going to share something else. Okay? Before I start hearing the Pookie and Ray Ray arguments and all that old other bullshit, which I often hear, okay? Before I start hearing it, let's just talk about the facts. This is an article from Washington Post, but if you look it up, man, you can see just as many articles elsewhere. I mean, articles in other formats related to this. White people are more likely to deal drugs, but black people are more likely to get arrested for it.
There it is.
White people are more likely to deal, not just use. See, a lot of people perceive the drug dealer as, the New York drug dealer, like Supreme and all them guys from, the 80s and the 90s. Like those were the ones who were out there actually selling drugs.
Mm-hmm.
The biggest drug dealers in this country are white people. It's the facts. These are the facts. They're more likely to deal and use hard drugs than black people. But black people are more likely to get arrested for it. So fuck all your Pookie and Ray Ray arguments. I'm tired of hearing that shit. I'm tired of hearing it. Because you don't know, if you do know the facts, you don't give a fuck. But I'm here to tell you, this is unjust. But anyway, so look, this article. Arrest data, shows a striking trend. Arrests of blacks have fallen for violent and property crimes, but soared for drug-related crimes. As of 2011, drug crimes comprise 14% of all arrests. The miscellaneous category that includes drug paraphernalia possession comprise an additional 31% of all arrests. Just 6 and 14% of arrests were for violent and property crimes. So the arrests are being driven by drugs, drug arrests.
Mm-hmm.
That's how you have this large prison population. Bottom line, okay? And let's just go down to this thing because I don't want to stay stuck on this article. I want to get back to the main one. But for all you Pookie and Ray Ray theorists, right? Whites were about 45% more likely than blacks to sell drugs when these fucking laws came into being. Whites were 45% more likely than blacks to sell drugs in 1980, according to an analysis of the National Longitudinal Survey of Youth by economist Robert Fairley. This was consistent with the 1989 survey of youth in Boston. My own analysis of data from the 2012 National Survey on Drug Use and Health shows that 6.6% of white adolescents and young adults sold drugs, compared to just 5% of blacks, a 32% difference. But the question is, why is Negroes the ones getting locked up for this shit? I wonder why.
Come on, man, that can't be true, because I saw that movie, Boys in the Hood, and they said that it was primarily black people selling drugs, so that can't be right.
I'm just saying.
But the movies don't say.
Yeah, well, look, a movie is what it is. A movie is propaganda. You already know it, Doc. I mean, like movies can't dictate what our reality is. Especially if we're not making the movies.
Get it.
If we're not producing, directing, and writing the scripts, fuck these movies, man.
Yeah. Funding
and fuck all these rap. You wonder, first of all, like, you wonder why these rappers are big now? Because most of the rappers deal with the whole subject matter of drug usage and sales. But who's the biggest consumer of drugs? It's white people. They love hearing this shit. This is American music.
Hey, wait. So you're telling me this multi-billion-dollar, multi-decade-long drug industry isn't run on a small group of poor people in black ghettos?
The biggest purchaser and consumer of rap music is white boys from the ages of 13 to 35. That's the facts. Those are the facts. Now, if you like it, if you don't like the truth, you don't. But like what these guys, the rap industry basically has, a demographic that wants to hear this bullshit. When I was coming up, man, you know who the biggest rappers were? Run DMC, LL Cool J, Kool Moe Dee, Curtis Blow, even though Curtis Blow is an association with cocaine. Big Daddy Kane, De La Soul, Public Enemy. I mean, these guys wasn't talking about like I'm shooting niggas daily. I'm selling crack. It wasn't until NWA came out that there was any real mention of this kind of stuff as far as in hip hop. I mean, you had Tim Dog from the East Coast or whatever, but like largely all this drug dealing music, it wasn't even part of the narrative of hip hop. KRS-One, My Philosophy, yeah, you had Criminal Minded or what have you, but I mean, these guys weren't just talking about how high they were and how big of drug dealers they were in every song. This is my youth in hip hop. I'm talking about Grandmaster Flash and the Furious Five, Melly Mel, UTFO, Roxanne, Queen Latifah, Moni Love.
Yeah, drugs was part of the lived experience, but it wasn't the point of hip hop at that time. So I hear you.
I'm not saying that there wasn't any association with drug use at all,
right?
Or that it wasn't there at all, but it was a grassroots movement at that time. Big labels weren't attached to hip hop during that time.
Right.
You get what I'm saying?
Yeah. They hadn't figured out how to monetize it quite yet.
So, I mean, this was authentic music. And not to say that, like it wasn't drug dealers in New York at the time. That's a lie. Okay? But let's just be mindful. The reality is, the only thing I'm just trying to point out is the music wasn't filled with, I'm a drug kingpin, I'm a murder and kill you type of guy.
A lot of it, when it was referenced, you had to kind of be in the know. Because look, I was a kid in Northern California. So when hip hop was coming out, I'm a kid. And I'm not even in New York. So some of the reference, like Curtis Blow, everybody's name was Ski and Blow at that time. That did have a reference to cocaine. But if you weren't really part of that culture, you didn't know that. I didn't know Curtis Blow's name referenced that. I was a kid in Northern California. I just thought it was a cool name. So I mean, so it was a little more subtle. It wasn't in your face, and it wasn't something that was about, pushing you to go out and do it, which was something I saw a decade later.
Man, look, I'm gonna tell you, man. I went to college in 89. Hip hop, that was the transition right there. Mm-hmm. This is the same time when, Public Enemy came out with it. It takes the nations of millions to hold us back. You had Paris, X-Clan, all these radical rap groups or whatever the case may be. You still had like rappers like Tribe Called Quest, De La Soul was still hitting. You had Third Base, White Boys. You still had the Beastie Boys. Beastie Boys talk more about drug usage than I really heard in most of the rappers' raps until, Dr. Dre came out with the Chronic.
Man, you looked at Beastie Boys pictures, you knew they was high, boy.
But look, keep it 100. I remember MC Shan had a song about cocaine. And at the end of the song, he said, don't you know by now that her name is Cocaine? Because he was talking about how he was in love with this girl and all this kind of stuff. But they were cautionary tales about drug use.
Right.
They weren't like, okay, I'm high, I feel like I'm on Mars and Pluto. They wasn't, did they do drugs? Yes, they did drugs, but they weren't out there advertising it like it's the thing to do. They wasn't like promoting it on their records, but I don't want to get off into that conversation. Needless to say, white people use drugs more and they deal drugs more than black folks, but black folks, particularly black men, are more likely to be arrested for it. It is what it is. These are the facts. So getting back to the present screen. Sorry about taking that detour, bro.
All good. We got to do it.
Okay. Since the late 1960s and early 70s, an overwhelming emphasis on punitive measures to combat crime has resulted in dramatic increases in the nation's arrest and incarceration rates. These responses include both states and federal government enacting more draconian laws that significantly lengthen sentences, in addition to passing laws adding new crimes to the books. One early example of these harsh measures, New York State's Rockefeller drug laws, imposed 15-year mandatory minimums for possession of marijuana, bruh, and other drugs. Laws like these put unprecedented numbers of people in prison for non-violent crimes. Then it goes on to say, around this time, there was a dramatic shift in America away from rehabilitative views of punishment. This was spurred on by a much-cited article by Robert Martinson, a sociologist who argued that nothing works in terms of rehabilitative programming intended to prevent recidivism. Now look, I don't know if you know about who Robert Martinson is, but this motherfucker committed suicide, man. This guy didn't have it all together, bro. Years, not too long after he published this article and said nothing works for this motherfucker in real life.
Right.
To the extent to which he twisted himself. Not to say, that's, I'm not taking that lightly, but I mean, this guy has like a problem. He can't even rehabilitate himself. Nothing works. This is a manic depressive.
Right. Which will have an impact on your research. I don't care what nobody say. It does.
So nothing works. That's like, like the Bohemian Rhapsody. Any way the wind blows, nothing really matters to me. But this is one of the, and people say that, scholarship doesn't affect policy. That's not true. Because a lot of times what these, politicians will do, they'll hitch their wagon to a theory in order to push an agenda that they already have in mind.
Mm-hmm.
They just use it as a form of legitimation by making reference to some academician. You get what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, most criminologists began to emphasize retribution instead of rehabilitation.
Right.
So I don't know. There's five common approaches to punishment. You got deterrence, incapacitation, rehabilitation, retribution, and vengeance. I mean, I've taught it so much, I know exactly what they are. Okay, but it's all about retribution. It's not about rehabilitation at all. That's not what the criminal justice system is about in the United States. Mm-hmm. They can give a fuck less. They just want to lock people up and make money while doing it.
Yeah, on multiple levels. As Marcus said in the chat earlier, there's a good significant part of this that's about free labor. So you can buy stocks, you can double down and invest in incarceration. You can also have corporate companies paying for virtually free labor. All of that. There's so many ways to make money, even federal, in terms of states, setting up these prisons. There's just so many ways to do it that there's very little incentive not to.
So look, policymakers and legislators follow suit, and eventually sentencing schemes were modified to focus on retribution over rehabilitation and crime prevention. So what does Washington do? Washington takes the punitive path. Federal funding followed a similar punitive strategy. Since the 60s, the federal government has played a central role in shaping the nation's criminal justice landscape through outlays of grant money to states. Come on, man. If you incentivize a particular kind of policy or a set of institutions by funding them, you're going to get more of it, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep. That's what it's designed for.
We're going to give you money for this.
Yep.
We're going to allocate millions of billions of dollars to this. Okay? In 1968, President Lyndon Johnson signed the most sweeping federal crime bill that Congress had ever passed. Enacted amid nationwide concerns over rising crime rates, the Omnibus Crime Control and Safe Street Acts of 1968 provided $400 million for law enforcement. Summing up the tenor of the nation, it ushered in Nixon's election a few months later. The Republican Party's 1968 platform stated, "Lawlessness is crumbling the foundations of American society. We must reestablish the principle that men are accountable for what they do, that criminals are responsible for their crimes, that while the youth environment may help to explain the man's crime, it does not excuse that crime."
Hold up, real quick. We must reestablish the principle that men are accountable. See, this is what's interesting. These are the underpinnings of what would come after in terms of this massive incarceration kind of gesture, right? So when we shift that conversation to Black relationships and we start having these conversations about why Black men are not advancing the way Black women are, we forget somehow that this shit happened. And it becomes every individual Black male's failure. But we're not going to talk about this multi-million-dollar investment in undermining and exploiting men. And when you talk about men and they started to fixate on which men, as you've already pointed out, it came down to us. So how exactly does an individual Black male who finds himself accosted systemically from elementary school not get caught up on one level or another in this and it not have an impact on the community that he as an individual is blamed for when this shit is systemic from the beginning? This is the policy being told right here. But you got people that'll say, well, it's particularly women. I've heard this. Well, if you got to at least do what I'm doing. Why can't you do what I did? I went to school. I did this. I did that. Did nobody target you? Look at this. How does this not make the discussion about Black family formation, coupling, all of that, Black male unemployment or employment? None of this shit comes up in the conversation.
All we got is Pookie and Ray Ray conversations.
Well, especially among the men, but among the women, it's trifling nigga conversations.
But let's face
going
it.
On my whole life.
I'm just saying.
We're not looking at this. This is laying out the fucking plan and how the system and the state would profit from it. But somehow this doesn't make the conversation in either circle. whether you're talking about Pookies and Ray Rays or trifling niggas, they're still based on the same goddamn stereotype and nobody cares.
Again, white people are more likely to deal and to use drugs than black people. And I'm guaranteeing you, white folks, black folks have more recently begun to commit more acts of homicide against one another. But I guarantee you, man, prior to the deindustrialization and the outsourcing of jobs and the criminalization of black male life, I guarantee you we would like beneath them in that shit as well. I don't know that for a fact, but I'm willing to hazard a guess. Because they've basically criminalized black male life ever since the fucking, the end of Reconstruction. I mean, this is just a continuation of the same shit.
But it's interesting, see, because I got into a debate with this woman, this black woman, a couple weeks ago. And one thing she said to me was, well, don't black women and black men live the same experience? In other words, she was saying, why can't niggas keep up? Because we're doing well. And if we live the same experience and we don't go to jail, the problem must be with you niggas. But then you turn this article, you post this article on the screen and read it, and it's kind of like, well, could have took you 5 minutes on Google to figure out that you don't live the same experience as your husbands, your boyfriends, your sons, your brothers, your fathers. You don't live the same experience because nobody targeted you. Not like this.
Man, first of all, you already know, man, there's more men's prisons in the United States than there are women's prisons. They don't even have prisons to house the women that commit the crimes they do.
Which is why they're sentenced 65% less for the same crimes, because if they were sentenced the way men were, they don't even have the facilities to lock them up. They don't
even have a place to house them.
No.
They don't even have anywhere to put them. Because they didn't invest in prisons for women. They invested in prisons for men. And in particular, black men.
But the cold part about it is you could sit down with my grandmother or my great-grandmother, and she could tell you, at least in the context of her time, the difference between black men and women's lived experience. She could tell you that. She could tell you about how racism impacted them differently. Today, these same women will look you dead in the eye and say, you niggas just need to work harder like we do. Huh?
Crazy, bro. Crazy. It's just, that's the magical shit right there. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's a hell of a thing, man, to declare yourself to be magical and shit like that. When you got like training wheels on your bicycle, you popping wheelies and shit. When the heart is on, you know what I'm saying? So if you fall and you got pads and helmets on and shit like that, you rolling around like Evel Knievel, ain't worried about falling. Mm-hmm. We ain't got no training wheels on, no pads, no helmet, no nothing. Yeah. And we're the target. That's why back in the day, Public Enemy had that target over the image of a black male.
Yep.
There was a target on our backs.
Shout out to Kevin C. and in the super chats, he's laying out some important information. Appreciate that support, man. Shout out to Barry.
Yeah, let me do some housekeeping. Shout out to Admiral Smoke, Sandog. We're gonna do a show tomorrow. We're gonna continue on this. It's not us, it's them. Okay. He said, shout out to Dr. Johnson's 14-point plan. Stop being the political footballs. Move beyond loyalist or continental. Move beyond red and blue. 14-point plan should be our political foundation. Move to the bros.
Appreciate that support, Sandog. And y'all remember, it doesn't have to stay 14 points. Y'all can add to it. Feel free. Suggest an idea. Most particularly you, Sandog. I know you've been thinking about this stuff. Let's add to it, y'all. Whatever is appropriate for improving the quality of life for black males, that's what needs to be on there. I never said it was finished. It's just a starting point.
So anyway, let's go to Admiral again, Sandog again. He says, the Superman is one who replaces the old value system with something superior. Good and evil are interpreted based upon his wants and needs. I guess he's talking about the Uber-mentioned Nietzschean philosophy here. Whatever the case may be. And I want to address this real quick. So you got this comment, kind of off-the-cuff comment basically made by Queen Coon, which is, who I don't know who the hell this is. So does this mean that abuse wasn't an issue in Black America? Indeed, around the time where all of the arguments about abuse began to be made in the academy and in the political chambers about, intimate partner abuse and shit like that, guess who was the biggest committer of intimate partner homicide between the years of 1976 and 1984?
Mm-hmm.
Who were the biggest perpetrators of intimate partner homicide?
Yep.
The biggest demographic. Answer that, Queen Coon. Go look it up.
Yep. Shout out to the man, not Tommy Curry.
I mean, go look it up. Mm-hmm. The answer, of course, is Black.
Oh, we lose you? I can't hear you, man.
You can hear me. Put a 1. Can you hear me?
Now I can hear you. Now I can hear you.
Yeah, I guess I can't talk about Queen Coon. Right. So anyway, yeah, my internet is real iffy right now for some reason, man. I got like over a gig internet speed, but it for some reason, man, I'm encountering these difficulties, bro. I'm gonna have to call these people and get them on task. But anyway, so getting back to the whole thing, man, before I get sidetracked. 2 decades later, the nation remained preoccupied by crime and drugs. In 86, the media frenzy surrounding the crack cocaine overdose death of college basketball player Len Bias, who had just been recruited by the Boston Celtics, moved the issue to the center of political discourse. Within months, Reagan signed the Anti-Drug Abuse Act of 86, which increased federal funding for law enforcement and required harsher penalties in federal drug cases, including life imprisonment. This new tough-on-crime legislation mandated a minimum sentence of 5 years without parole for possession of 5 grams of crack cocaine, again imprisoning more people for nonviolent offenses. Mm-hmm. So this is the 5 grams versus 500 grams of powder cocaine law.
Right.
That eventually Obama overturned and put it to 18-1. Okay. Which to me is some bullshit still. You need to, if you got a bad law that's based on race, you got to get rid of the shit. Get rid of it. But, it's difficult to get rid of things once you put them in motion. Okay? Anyway, at the time of the bill signing, a New York Times journalist wrote that most of the funds will go for new boats, planes, and weapons, more drug law enforcement agents, added federal prosecutors, and new jail cells. The bill played a central role in the war on drugs, dedicating more than $1 billion to state and federal law enforcement agencies to fight crime, including an authorization of $96.5 million for new federal prisons. Mm-hmm. So this country made a direct decision. It said, you know what? And then taking the information of what, basically what Nixon was thinking about anyway. He's like, fuck it. We're going to use this as an excuse to lock up hippies and black people.
Yeah. And militarize law enforcement, which is essentially what this did.
So you wonder why motherfuckers getting choked out on the streets right now?
Exactly. This
is the reason why. You wonder why people are scared of the police and you even have a movement, hands up, don't shoot, Black Lives Matter. You wonder why, like, you little boys like Tamir Rice getting shot in the street.
But what I hear is I don't know why he ran. I don't know why he didn't comply. I don't know why he didn't. That's why.
Man, they basically militarized white boys to knock niggas upside the head over pieces of rock. Drugs. That white people do more than black people do anyway, and white people sell and deal the shit more than black people anyway. But we sitting here scratching our head, and I ain't saying the Democrats are the only people involved in it, but they put the icing on the cake on this shit. They put an exclamation point on this policy.
Right.
They put the period on it and the little mark that goes over the period to say yes, with emphasis. They were exclamatory about this. Okay? Anyway, the 94 crime bill and its legacy. Violent crime rates worsened in the years that followed, increasing more than 15% between 86 and 94. Even more sweeping in its scope than the federal funding bills that preceded it, Clinton then signed the 94 crime bill, which remains the most extensive federal crime legislation ever passed. It authorized the death penalty for dozens of existing and new federal crimes, and it mandated life imprisonment for a third violent felony, also known as the 3 strikes and you're out rules.
Yes, sir.
It also banned 19 types of semi-automatic assault weapons, and it created the Violence Against Women Act, which was designed to protect victims of domestic violence. I mean, all this shit is lock these niggas up, and you know who the face of domestic violence is? You know who the face of it is, right? O.J. Simpson, Chris Brown, James Brown.
Yes, sir.
Rick James.
James, I was just about to say that one. Yep.
The face of domestic violence is a black man.
Exactly.
Either literally or fictitiously. Does Mr. come to mind?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
But at the same time, a lot of these laws, between 76 or it was 76 and 84, black women were the leading perpetrators of intimate partner homicide.
Bobby Bloom added Ike Turner. Yep.
Dr. Dre.
Yep.
Tory Lanez.
Oh, hell.
Who was the football? Who was the Rice? What was the guy who played for Baltimore?
Oh, man. Oh, they gonna say it in the chat.
Ray Rice.
Bill Cosby.
Bill Cosby.
They put in Bill Cosby.
Not Cardi B, who used to drug motherfuckers and get them raped by trannies. Excuse me. Which is what her exact words.
Mike Tyson.
Yeah,
they dropping them now. They dropping the names because we all heard this. We all got the same programming.
So you the number one perpetrator of all this shit. Most of this shit is directed towards us.
And Night Raven dropped what I think is the most significant when you talk about The Color Purple, because you got a fictional character that somehow became real to half of Black America and was retroactively and fictitiously applied literally to Black men to the point where we literally became Mr. And didn't nobody do any analytical study, any historical study as to how many Black men at that time owned property and none of that. Mr. became a historical reality that was retroactively applied to all Black men. And I've said this multiple times. I have family members who went to their graves hating Danny Glover because as far as they were concerned, Mr. was real. And that was their way of maintaining their connection to that hated idea. Hated them into their graves.
Man, look, bro, get your head out of the TV screen. I tell people all the time, man, don't let movies dictate your reality. Don't let what's on the silver screen impact what's going on inside your neurons and your brain cells, man. Jesus Christ. Shout out to Kevin C 2 times, because he done hit me up more than once. You know what I'm saying? He says, remember it was the CIA, U.S. government that flooded Black areas with crack. See the documentary Freeway, Crack in the System, 2014. I believe this to be true.
Mm-hmm.
I believe it to be true. A lot of people say it's conspiracy. I don't believe it's a conspiracy. White people are just the type of people who will make a profit off some shit that they done criminalize.
Yep.
They're just them type of people.
Research Gary Webb.
They just them type of people, man. I'm just keeping it a buck. They just them type of people, bro. Anyway, and then you know what's even more fucked up about this is that many of these politicians got kids and shit that's dope heads.
Oh yeah. Like
fucking Joe Biden's son. This motherfucker's a crackhead, man. But they'll send your kids to fucking federal prison.
Right.
They'll send they fucking kids to the Betty Ford clinic. They want rehabilitation for fucking Chad and little Timmy and shit, but they'll put Rashad and Daquan, they'll fucking lock his ass up and throw away the key. Yep. They can fucking be dope heads and then be the president.
Oh yeah.
Cause W was he was a cocaine sniffer. They can be snorting coke in the White House. And nobody would give a fuck. But they'll lock your ass up and throw away a key. Exactly. Throw it away.
Right.
Man, don't get me started with this shit. Anyway, for the previous decade, Americans have usually identified crime as the biggest problem facing the country. Really? Like what kind of crime? Basically just say niggas. The threat of niggas is the biggest problem facing the country. Just come out and say the shit.
You know what's so cold about it? Is afraid of black men as these folks were, they still monetize that shit. So from comedy to movies to television, that the image of the very black men they feared would have weren't the images they profited off of, not just in hip hop, but even in fucking movies. So you gonna make money on the thing you fear. It's a trip, and it further criminalizes the black male image, but it puts more in their pockets. This is some wickedly brilliant shit, man.
This mastermind shit right here. This is Yakub at the finest.
At the finest.
This Yakub at his finest. This is some Game of Thrones type shit.
Yeah, this is some masterful.
This is the House of the Dragon type treacherous shit.
Yeah, and we buying the movies, buying the albums, and we partying along to it. That's how cold it is.
Diddy bopping to the motherfucking damage they putting out here on our image.
Man,
Diddy bopping to
one up each other to be the next one to get paid to do it. I'm gonna be the one. I'm gonna be the next one.
You got motherfuckers Bobby Schmurder auditioning and shit on top of tables in front of white people like, watch me set this dope, man.
This is cold, man.
It's a cold game, boy. So look, we scared of the niggas. This is what it is, man. Like, fuck all this straight up no chaser here on the Green Gorilla channel, man. Just come out and say it, bro. Like, fuck all the academic language and all of the graduated terminology and the rhetoric of the academy and all of that. Let's just call a spade and a spade, bro. This is anti-black male fucking legislation. Mm-hmm. It's what it is.
Yep. Yeah.
And we support the shit. Look, this is how cold the game is. Okay, look. Americans identified crime as the biggest problem facing these niggas. Okay, although it was not known at the time, violent crime had already reached its peak. Crack cocaine, which had appeared in the mid-'80s, was still ravaging large swaths of urban America, was blamed for gang violence and the crime epidemic facing the nation. This climate of fear was summed up by Clinton, who, in signing the bill, said, gangs, and he ain't talking about fucking the mafia, the Italian mafia. He talking about the Crips and the Bloods.
Nope.
This is some Crips and Blood shit.
Mm-hmm.
This is what this is. The gangster disciples You know what I'm saying? And the Black Peace Stone Rangers. This is what this shit is. The VLs. Anyway, this climate of fear, the gangs and drugs have taken over our streets and undermined our schools. Mm-hmm. Now here's the fucked up thing. Go watch the movie Bastards of the Party. And you see how these fucking gangs started in the first place.
Just played it today for my students. Yep.
You see how these gangs started in the first place. The first gangs were white gangs called spook hunters.
Mm-hmm.
They used to go around Watts and fucking Crenshaw and Compton and shit, cracking niggas' heads open while they was on their way to school.
But they were just good old boys looking for some fun. I mean, what's the Dukes of Hazzard? What they used to
just the good old boys.
These white boys roll around in the fucking
wouldn't change if they could. Fighting the system every day like the true Robin Hood. Making a way. Good old boys, man. Just good old boys. Look. like it's a shame that Negroes, man, just basically internalize the same bullshit arguments that the Yakubs created for us. We got they same, we use the same arguments they do. We ain't figured it out yet. First of all, we don't deal or sell drugs as much as white people do, but we get arrested for it more. And you know what the excuse these motherfuckers got for why we get arrested more? Do you know what it all comes down to, bro? You know what the excuse for them is?
What is it?
That niggas sell drugs outside while white people sell dope indoors.
Oh, God.
Word? That's what it is, huh? So white police roll up to niggas, and niggas in the middle of a transaction, like they can't see your ass from a million miles away, rolling on the block. Even if niggas sell dope outdoors, they not selling dope right in front of the police outdoors.
And how many of them made it out to the white neighborhoods, you know?
Man, they sons selling dope, man. They fucking sons and daughters are selling dope. I done seen it, man. I done seen police with dope, man. Fucking around with dope. Bruh, I went to one of the most elite high schools in St. Louis, bro, in high school. These white boys was fucking with dope, man. I'm from the hood. The dope fiends protected me from seeing the dope. Not these white boys.
Right.
And I ain't talking about little bitty packs of weed and shit like that. I'm talking about pills, powder, and big ass ounces and quarter pounds of weed. And these motherfuckers coming to school in Benzes.
Yep.
16, 17 years old. Rolling to school in Benzes, bruh. BMWs and fucking Lexuses and shit. In 84, 85, 86.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
I'm just keeping it a buck. Like, I'm keeping it a buck here, bruh. I ain't see dope until I went to a white high school. And I'm from the hood. The hood. Man. Ain't no more hood than Kossuth and Fur in St. Louis, bruh. It ain't too much more in the hood, no goddamn where else in the whole city, bruh.
Look, man, I have family in East Palo Alto and Oakland. You may not know about those unless you've been to Cali or in the Bay. But I'm going to tell you, in the 80s, I remember drug dealers that would tell you to stay away from what they doing because you had potential. I remember cats who were on crack that wouldn't let you, like you said, wouldn't even let you look at it. Hell, I even remember pimps. I mean, it was a pimp that taught me about sex. This shit gets so ridiculous to me because somehow black men lose their humanity when involved in this. When white folk don't get pointed out at all, even though the title of the article lets you know they did it more.
White boys do whatever the fuck they want to do, however they want to do it. They get the Betty Ford Clinic. We get the federal penitentiary or the state penitentiary. This is the facts, man, whether you fucking like it or not. Take Rush Limbaugh, for example, man. This motherfucker, man, got caught with hella Oxycontin pills. You think this motherfucker ever did a day in prison?
And we did time in jail if you looked like somebody they thought was a drug dealer.
This motherfucker had gangs of Oxycontin, and his uncle was a federal judge in the city of St. Louis. You think that motherfucker did a day in prison? Let him catch your motherfucking ass with some dope. You think all these white boys singing all these goddamn rock songs, they are fucking poster children for drug abuse.
But they didn't have to catch you doing dope. If they assumed that you did it, if they said you looked like you did it. I had cousins that did time in jail because a cop said they looked like they did some shit. I saw cops set people up and plant drugs. This don't even have nothing to do with doing it, let alone selling it. You could be labeled with any of this. And they knew you didn't have the money to have any kind of representation of any worth.
So the excuse is we sell dope outdoors. They sell dope indoors. That's the excuse. Man, look, most of the time motherfuckers get a case because somebody done snitched on them. The police out there looking for intel got another motherfucker jammed up, and they try to use somebody. All they got to do is ask you, did he sell you some dope? Name me the guys who selling dope. That's how they get the excuse to go in and knock motherfuckers' doors down. Because that's how niggas getting locked up, by their houses getting kicked in. Just like how Breonna Taylor got killed. You talk about the militarization of the police. They took all the weapons and all these billions of dollars and gave motherfucking police officers tanks and guns and shit. All the assault weapons that they banned, they gave them to the motherfucking police. And said, go lock some niggas up.
And don't get put in a lineup. That's your ass.
But anyway, but here's the deal, man. Like Marcus, let's talk about high-level drug dealers. Let's be honest about this shit, bro. It might be a few Negroes like Bumpy or like Freeway who got access to Poppy. But most niggas ain't got access to Poppy because the dope comes from the white boys. They the ones who got the dope. The white boys the ones that got the dope. They got dope all day, every day. They got, like my man say, they got DMT, shrooms. They got any kind of dope you want. Acid, opioids, cane, heroin. They got all the dope. Meth. They got all kinds of dope, bruh. Especially in Missouri. But they cutting down, man. Look, they done created. Look, anyway, let's finish this shit, man, so we can get to the rest of this, man. I don't want you to be here all night. I don't want you to be here all night. Today, policymakers who voted for the bill often point to support from black communities, including the Congressional Black Caucus. But the politics behind it weren't so clear-cut. As Professors Elizabeth Hinton, Julili Kohler-Hausman, and Vesla Weaver wrote recently in an op-ed, while supporting the idea of addressing crime, the members of the CBC criticized the bill itself and introduced an alternative bill that included investments in prevention and alternatives to incarceration, devoted $2 billion more to drug treatment and $3 billion more to early intervention programs. But in July of 1994, a group of 10 black mayors from big cities, including Atlanta, Cleveland, and Detroit, begged the CBC, the Congressional Black Caucus, to support the crime bill. The CBC did eventually vote to support the bill, but it was a political compromise with 26 of the 38 voting members supporting it. So Negroes are part of this shit too. The fat cats in Washington and the mayors and shit. They'll lock your ass up. Nigga will lock your ass up too for the same shit white boys do. I don't know if they smart or they stupid, or I don't know. But just because you're educated and you got like a degree, a law degree, a PhD, don't mean you're intelligent politically. It just doesn't. I'm just keeping it above. Anyway, at the time, debate revolved around the bill's gun safety provision. Charges that programs such as midnight basketball focus too much on crime prevention and the death penalty. So fuck midnight basketball. I remember guys playing midnight basketball. But in retrospect, among the most significant and long-lasting impacts of the legislation was the authorization of incentive grants to build or expand correctional facilities through the Violent Offender Incarceration and Truth in Sentencing Incentive Grants Program. In other words, build more prisons to house these niggas.
Yep.
And give them longer periods of time to stay there. Mm-hmm. This provided 12 points. So if you wonder why there's a difference between what the fuck is going on in the lives of black males and black women, here you have it right here. They invested in us. They did invest in us. They invested in us to be inside of a fucking correctional facility.
Right.
That's what they invested. This is our civil rights bill right here. This is all the civil rights shit. This is what it went into. All the money that could have been allocated towards improving the quality of our lives went into this shit right here. Now, it didn't start with the 94 crime bill. There's a long history of this shit, but they put the icing on the cake.
So you have a bifurcated investment system. Niggas went to jail, and you had on a class basis, you had women that either had welfare access or went to college. But black men went to jail. And those same women and their daughters will turn around and look at you now and say, well, why didn't you do what I did? That's the problem I'm getting at. We can't have an honest conversation because this shit is structural. It's systemic. And these conversations about niggas just need to pull themselves up by the bootstraps does not work because you're talking about really over decades, what is more than likely a multi-billion-dollar investment in various aspects of this. You can't just alpha your way out of this shit.
They invested billions of dollars to lock your ass up for the same shit that white boys doing or less. And then they was the ones who took like the gangs in LA. Go look at the bastards of the party, man. You got these gangs. They basically used COINTELPRO to fucking cut out the leaders of the gangs who was becoming more progressive in relation to movements related to black power and community.
But even that all happened after something you said a half hour ago when they took all the jobs and sent them overseas. So the jobs that black men relied on, because even in that film, when they talk about gang life, they talked about the end of a gang member's life was usually 17, 18 years old when they finished high school and went to work at the local factory. The lifespan of a gangster ended at the end of high school, according to Bastards of the Party, because after that, you had to get your shit together and work. But when those jobs were gone, what was your primary income base? Right? So before we even get to the gangs, you got to look at what happened economically, what happened in terms of access to employment. All of that went away. That's deindustrialization. Then you had a rise of these gangs. But people were trying to eat, but they presented like motherfuckers just woke up and were gang oriented just because it was in their DNA. No. It was a survival mechanism for a lot of broke people that had no options.
Now, these motherfuckers out here on some bullshit, killing each other? Yes. But, I mean, come on, man. Let's face it, man. Motherfuckers didn't say that, you know, the Italians, them motherfuckers killed each other left and right. The Yakuza killed each other left and right. The Triad, left and right. The Russian mafia and mobsters, all of these cats, man. Like, there's always been a criminal element in every culture. But we get typecast as, you know, basically the worst element of it. Our stereotype is criminal. We are criminal. Not that that's a criminal contingent in the community, but that is the sum total of what the community is or can be. Shout out to Rogan's son. He says, a wise man once said, make you want to holler. Boy, don't it? TTT, you ain't never lied. She says, if you haven't clicked like, it ain't too late. Click like, man. Get my lights up, man. And if you don't like it, get the lights down. If you don't like it, hit the light, put the lights down. Give me a unlike. Shit. But anyway, $12 billion in grants to fund incarceration. Anyway, the provision helped fuel a prison construction boom. Not a school boom. Not a business boom. A prison boom. The number of state and federal adult correctional facilities rose 43% from 1990 to 2005. For a period in the 90s, a new prison opened up every 15 days on average. To be sure, the prison buildup can be traced back to earlier, 72, and a new federal truth and sentencing incentive grant program was implemented during an era when many states had already begun to make their sentencing structures and practices more draconian. Yet, while some states had already started to enact tougher sentencing laws, the legislation rewards states for those decisions, providing powerful incentives for others to adopt them. Taking together these series of grants reflect the federal government's role in spurring states towards more punitive criminal justice measures. The funding encouraged states and cities to increase arrests, prosecutions, and incarceration, playing a tremendously powerful part in growing the size and scope of our correctional system. Anyway, looking to the future. There are stockpiles of research finding that incarceration has dramatically increased without yielding larger crime reduction benefits. No fucking joke, huh? This shit really don't work, do it? Not only that, but in states where prison rates have fallen, the crime rates have fallen as well. So anyway, there's a correlation between, you get what you ask for. If you want to lock niggas up and build prisons, you're going to get more crime because you're looking for it. Over the last several years, the federal government has taken some steps to fund criminal justice practices that improve communities without such a punitive aim. For example, the Justice Reinvestment Initiatives provides funding and technical assistance to states to improve public safety, reduce correction spending, and reinvest savings in strategies that can decrease crime and reduce recidivism. Similarly, the Second Chance Act refunds reentry efforts. But despite these programs, the federal government has never sent a clear message to states that de-incarceration should be a goal. Anyway, there's, we can go on and on, but you get the picture. That's supposed to be corrective measure. What can happen in the future? They ain't trying to ramp this shit down for real. Not for real. And the second article I wanted to show, and then we gon'.
But let me just say real quick. So if you took the population, what percentage of America is adult black male. We're like 5, something like that. So
6%, man.
So I'm Marcus, and with all due respect, man, I hear what you're saying about the culture, but you literally just saw how much of an investment systemically is being played out. You measuring that against the behavior of what 5-6% of America? Come on, man. Really? Come on, man.
So at the end of the day, look, all we saying is, first of all, we already know that like most of the crime around drugs is committed by white folks. That's just the facts. They do more drugs and sell more drugs than black people ever have or ever will. But they don't get arrested for it, and the criminal system is not directed towards locking their asses up and siphoning them off into these carceral institutions. Not to say that they don't get ensnared by it, but I mean, come on, man. Like, this shit wasn't really actually built for them. This shit was built for us. Especially when you talk about the 94 crime bill and gangs. How many, like, what's the white gangs? When you talk about gang, what's a white gang other than the motherfucking Aryan Brotherhood? What is it? Who are they talking about?
We don't even have an image of that. Not even in popular culture. There's not even an image of or an idea of it.
So anyway, look. Getting on to the next one. Because, we got to get to the next one. Present screen. I'm taking me a minute to get used to this. Now, here's the counterpoint to this. This is written by the ACLU. Okay? This is what really happened. I believe this to be the case. The 94 federal crime bill that created tough new criminal sentences and incentivized states to build more prisons and pass truth and sentencing laws is getting new scrutiny during the new election cycle. This is written in 2019. Defenders of the law deny that it created the problem of mass incarceration, a term used to describe the fact that the U.S. incarcerates more of its people disproportionately black than any other nation in the whole fucking world. They argue that mass incarceration was a problem before the law passed. And regardless, they argue the federal government has limited jurisdiction over the problem, meaning it's the states, they're doing this. Bullshit. As 90% of people in prison and jail are under state jurisdiction. So who's right? It's true, the federal government has limited jurisdiction over mass incarceration, and that incarceration rates were already high. But it's also true that following the passage of the federal crime bill, incarceration rates continued to climb for an additional 14 years. The federal crime bill did not trigger mass incarceration, but it certainly encouraged mass incarceration to grow further. This is why I say they put the exclamation point on this. The 94 crime law was the largest crime bill in the history. It was meant to make a statement, and it did in at least two ways. First, the 94 crime bill gave the federal stamp of approval for states to pass even more tough on crime laws. By 94, all states had passed at least one mandatory minimum law. It used to be up to the judge's discretion how much time an individual got based upon the individual's case history. Now they just say, okay, fuck it, we doing mandatory minimums. The judge doesn't have any discretion. If you get caught with and you do a crime like X, Y, or Z, you go to jail. Except for if you're white though, because they find a way to get around that shit for them. Like Rush Limbaugh. That motherfucker ain't go to jail at all. He got caught with hundreds and hundreds of illegal Oxycontin pills. And was distributing them to his partners. He was pushing the motherfuckers to his partners.
Those are the only ones he was pushing it to?
Man. But he got partners in high places.
I was just asking,
He's the mouthpiece of the Republican Party. And his uncle a federal judge. Stephen Limbaugh. Go look this shit up. Go look it up. Stephen Limbaugh, the 8th District Federal Court. That's where, I think he dead now, but he might not be. Anyway, the 94 crime bill encouraged even more punitive laws and harsher practices on the ground, including by prosecutors and police to lock up more people and for longer periods of time. Second, the law shaped Democratic Party politics for years to come.
Yep.
Under the leadership of Bill Clinton, and this is important here, Democrats wanted to take control of crime issues from Republicans. So the two parties began a bidding war to increase penalties for crime, trying to outdo one another. The 94 crime bill was a key part of the Democratic strategy to show it could be tougher on crimes than Republicans. There you have it, bruh. There you go. So all this shit about, I don't want to hear a black woman, I don't give a fuck if she worked for CNN, MSNBC, Fox News, Fox Soul News. I don't give a fuck if the bitch, I don't care where she work at. Sorry, I just gotta keep it a buck here. I don't give a fuck where she works at. Both of these motherfuckers are oppressive. Both of these people and both of these parties are basically dedicated to criminalizing black male life at all fucking costs.
Right.
And you better get it in your mind.
Exactly.
I don't care. I'm tired of hearing the argument that it's one party worse than the other. The one party is the lesser of two evils.
Exactly.
I'm tired of hearing that bullshit.
But it's going to require another switch on our part. It's something that we're not used to doing as black men, and that's thinking as a demographic. Black men still think in terms of community. Black women do not. We actually have to start thinking about ourselves as a demographic purely for survival's sake at this point, because none of the policies that our community advocates for are really targeted at black men.
But I saw your, bro. I saw your show, bro, yesterday, and Travis, man, the hood scholar basically was saying, like, when you talk about black men, the most quoted scholar is Bell Hooks.
Yep.
If you want to understand black men, motherfucker, the go-to is Bell Hooks, bro. That's like going to motherfucking Oprah Winfrey to try to understand what's going on in the lives of black men. Because so with a black woman to understand more accurately and most acutely what the fuck is going on in the psychology of black men, go to her.
Mm-hmm.
Huh?
Mm-hmm.
How, bruh?
No citations, no references, nothing. Makes
the
about
most
sense is going to Krispy Kreme for diet information. It doesn't fucking make sense. But she became the standard, and to this day, black feminists are still referencing her work to make sense of black men. And those very same feminists are in high-level positions, not only in the academy, moving into administration, securing grants, and advancing particular scholars that they want to advance in their own organizations and institutes, but they're also working for corporate firms. So those very firms like Goldman Sachs that are securing $10 billion for the future employment of black women and the training for that, those are initiated by white-collar educated black women working at those corporations, and they're trained with a black feminist analysis, and they're referencing works like Bell Hooks to frame the logic of their approach.
And Bell Hooks basically says that black men are criminals. They are Pookies and Ray Rays. They're violent tyrants running roughshod over the black community. And that's all we are.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the big and the short and the tall of it. Because we're toxic and hegemonic and misogynistic. No citations, no empirical reference, no reference to empirical studies, no nothing. Just a whole bunch of bullshit that she cooked up at her desk. I mean, come, like, what the fuck, bruh? Are we supposed to sit here and listen to this shit and get disrespected in the meantime and don't say nothing? Can't say shit about it. Can't say anything. All we have to do is anybody who's willing to imitate, Xerox, ape, and copy and mimic the rhetoric of white folks, all of a sudden they get a place at the table. Yeah. Even at our table.
And I said this on my show yesterday. I've been to academic conferences, sessions on black men. And black males are the only subject I know of where trained scholars will get on stage at an academic conference and pull anecdotal stories out their ass about black boys, and that serves as research. I've never seen it to this degree on any other subject. But people really have gotten this idea in their head that there's nothing new or nothing more we need to know about black males. We already know enough.
So peep it. While Republicans continue their Willie Horton-style fear-mongering, the push for more punitive policies in the states, the 1996 Democratic Party platform, which was meant to provide a vision for the Democratic Party nationwide, relied heavily on the 94 law to display their tough on crime credentials. All this shit means is get tough on niggas. We can put niggas in prison too.
Yeah.
We can lock up niggas too. And we gonna give you fuel to do it.
So the cost of Democrats changing their image to look tough on crime was black male freedom and black male life. That was the cost. And further on that, for those that survived and came out of prison, they couldn't fucking vote. So we are literally the most voter disenfranchised group out here, and yet still vote Democrat to the second highest degree more than any other demographic but black women. But you tell me what policies are in play for black males?
Those are the policies in play for black males.
Exactly.
Those are the policies in play for black males. Ice Cube said this shit a long time ago. Concrete slave ships that never move.
Nameless called it in the chat. This is the super predator era.
Concrete slave ships that never move. Shout out to Mr. Heat, man. I never did get around to giving him a shout out for his donation, man. I can't find the super chat stickers no more, man. There's so many comments going up, man, and I can't find it. But shout out to that brother, and shout out to the brother who recently sent me a super chat. Original D says, wanted to show my appreciation for your work in class and trucking at the same damn time. Just don't ask me to write a paper. We won't, bro. All you gotta do is just listen, bro. All you gotta do is listen. We trying to give you the game. Trying to give you the information, man. There you go. I found him. Mr. He said, support your scholars, folks. No one else does. Hit that like button. You ain't got to hit the like button, man. I'm one of the most despised characters in the space. Motherfuckers got a lot to say about me. It is what it is.
Well, I can give you the secret to get you 100,000 more subscribers in about a week.
What I gotta do, bro? Put a tight shirt on and use my feminine voice or some shit.
Oh man, just hire you somebody with a sexy voice. Hire you a woman with a sexy voice and let her read your thoughts. That'll get your numbers up. Brothers in this space love to pay for that. Man. You can say the same thing, but you get a pretty woman to say the same thing you said. 100,000 men will sign up overnight and start giving her money.
Man, they'll be there with their motherfucking they lubrication and everything, jacking off at the screen, busting nuts and shit. God damn, bro.
I'm just watching this, man. And some of them I respect. Like, I like Pink Book. You know what I mean? She got her information. But at the end of the day, I'm watching women come in here and say the same exact thing brothers have been saying for 5 years. And niggas are still trying to get to 10,000 subscribers. These chicks are at 155. I'm like, really? Come on, man. Really? If it was black women that were supporting them, I'd understand it. But it'd be brothers.
Man, what they like is they like entertainment and shit like that. I mean, man, look, it is what it is, bro. It's just, it is what it is, man. We live in a culture, man, where niggas is tricks and simps. It just is what it is.
Look, man.
It is what it is. We have a culture of tricks and simps. It is what it is.
No, hold on. Y'all explain to me in the chat, how the hell does the Green Gorilla not have 30,000, 50,000 subscribers? Y'all explain that shit to me. Make it make sense.
But you know what? Also, it's YouTube. YouTube, man, does what it does, man. They push certain algorithms forward, dog. They push certain people's content forward. It is what it is. Then, you know, you got a whole lot of hating ass niggas in the space, too. Real talk. I hate to say that, but it is what it is. But, you know, you got to have a black woman in the title. I'm not about to do that shit every day. I'm not about to do that, man.
Sound like the PPP loans, but go ahead.
I'm just keeping it 100, man. But anyway, man, you know, but I'm going to stop sharing that. But, okay, look. Basically, the Democratic Party, man, you talking about a Democratic Party that's trying to appeal to the worst racial sentiments of white folks to get them to vote for them. So, yeah, they did invest in Black America. They invest in prisons for us in Black America. Now, the extent to which black women are able to participate in Title VII and get whatever benefits they got, that's all because of white women basically hijacked Title VII, bro. I already told you that Howard Smith, the Democrat from Virginia, at the 12th hour, at the behest of the National Organization of Women or whatever fucking organization it was, you know, basically pushed to get him to include women on the bill. Now, these the same motherfucking women who were segregationists, they owned slaves, and were the catalyst for fucking people like Emmett Till getting his fucking cranium cracked in, to the point where you can't even recognize his goddamn face. Now, all of a sudden, these motherfuckers are a minority. White women are a minority. Now we got all this conversation about misogyny and shit. Coming from people that used to own us. Now they get to talk about how privileged we are. They're talking about wealthy people, man. People got shit tons of money. Shit tons of bread. The second wealthiest demographic in the country talking about they make less money. They want to close the gender gap. While niggas living in concrete fucking slave ships. Motherfucker, Tupac was born in a prison. You got niggas born in prisons, bro.
Goddamn.
So anyway, I'm going to stop sharing that, man. And I'm going to share one other thing, and we're going to run right through this. I just want you to see what the 94 crime bill actually included. We heard like, you know, like various things. But anyway, this is published by the Department of Justice, which was created. The Department of Justice was created to prevent black people from being terrorized by the fucking Klan.
Damn.
The very organization that was invented, the very institution that was invented to prevent us from being killed by the fucking Klan has become the hand of fucking dealing with us by fucking locking us away and throwing away the key. Talk about a shift.
Yeah. And they used an intergenerational tension to promote that, because the elders in the community, they presented this shit as a solution to their stress dealing with all of this craziness in the streets.
Because your bum ass was too weak
behind this.
You was too much of a lame ass nigga to get control of these adolescents. You want white motherfuckers to come do it for you. You too motherfucking weak and scared to get your own boys in line. So you want white people to come do it for you. That's like a mama calling the police on her son and shit, which we've seen happen. I'm gonna call the police on you. You gonna learn. I'm gonna call the police on you. I had my mother told me that shit.
Wow.
I'm gonna let them lock your ass up. Huh?
What?
And my mom was one of the good ones for real. Cause she used to work, try to scare me. She used to work for the juvenile in St. Louis.
Damn.
The Violent Crime Control and Law Enforcement Act of 94, the fact sheet made by the U.S. Department of Justice. The Violent Crime Control and Law Enforcement Act of 94 represents the bipartisan. So fuck all that lesser of two evil shit y'all talking about. Fuck that. Fuck you for saying it. Fuck you. And I mean it from the bottom of my heart, man. I mean, the bottom of my fucking feet to the top of my crown. Fuck you. I don't care if you male or female. I don't care if you straight or gay. Fuck you. This is a bipartisan effort. The largest crime bill in history. It's going to provide for 100,000 new police. That's a way for them to get a pension and a motherfucking retirement to lock your ass up. $9.7 billion to fund prisons. $6.1 billion for funding for prevention programs which were designed with significant input from police officers. So that money went right to them. The act also significantly expands the government's ability to deal with problems caused by criminal aliens, Latino motherfuckers. Really, actually, Native Americans, because to be perfectly honest, that's what the illegal aliens are. Motherfuckers coming from Mexico, right? Who they stole the country from. If you know anything about history, motherfuckers talking about illegal aliens. Oh, they're illegal. These motherfuckers, the illegal aliens here. They're the illegal aliens. Or am I missing something here? Am I wrong about this?
Please.
Shit. This land is my land. This land is your land. From the remains of what was to the New York Island. This land was made for you and me. Really?
Oh, man.
Look, the crime bill gives $2.6 billion to the FBI, the DEA, and the NIS, U.S. attorneys, and other Justice Department components, as well as the federal courts and the Treasury Department. Some of the most significant provisions of the bill are summarized below. Substantive criminal provisions, assault weapons, bans the manufacture of 19 military-style assault weapons, which, includes copycat models and certain high-capacity ammunition magazines of more than 10 rounds. You mean the ones that white boys keep getting their hands on? Like Dylan Roof and shit, slaughtering motherfuckers in churches and shit. And going to schools and shit, shooting the motherfuckers up 20 at a time. The death penalty expands the federal death penalty to cover about 60 offenses, including terrorist homicides. You mean the ones like Dylan Roof who get to go to Burger King and shit? After he gets fucking arrested? Oh, I'm kind of hungry, officer. Oh, that's fine, man. We're going to take you to Burger King.
Right.
God damn. How many times have you seen a nigga get arrested and get to go to fucking Burger King?
And these cats are getting shot. These cats are getting shot walking home. You don't even have to do anything for black men to get shot, let alone get some fucking Burger King. And
okay. Terrorist homicides, murder of a federal law enforcement officer, large-scale drug trafficking, drive-by shootings resulting in death, and carjackings resulting in death. Okay. Domestic abusers and firearms, prohibits firearm sales to and possession by a person subject to family violence restraining orders. Firearms licensing, strengthens federal licensing standards for firearms dealers. Fraud, creates new insurance and telemarketing fraud categories, expands federal jurisdictions to cases that do not involve the use of delivery services to commit a fraud, provides special sentencing enhancements for fraud crimes against the elderly. Gang crimes, provides new and stiffer penalties for violent and drug trafficking crimes committed by gang members. Immigration, provides for enhanced penalties for alien smuggling, illegal reentry after deportation and other immigration-related crimes. Juveniles, authorizes adult prosecution of those 13 and older charged with certain serious violent crimes. That's fucking crazy to me. Prohibits the sale or transfer of a firearm or possession of certain firearms by juveniles.
That's the super predators.
Yeah. Triples the maximum penalties for using children to distribute drugs in or near a protected zone, schools, playgrounds, video arcades, and youth centers. Registration of sexually violent offenders. Requires states to enact statutes of regulations which require those determined to be sexually violent predators who are convicted of sexually violent offenses to register with appropriate state law enforcement agencies for 10 years after release from prison. Requires state prison officials to notify appropriate agencies of the release of such individuals, and requires states to criminally punish those who fail to register. States which fail to establish registration systems may have federal grant money reduced. Repeat sex offenders. Doubles the maximum term of imprisonment for repeat sex offenders convicted of federal sex crimes. 3 strikes. Mandatory life imprisonment without possibility of parole for federal offenders with 3 or more convictions for serious violent felonies or drug trafficking crimes. Victims of crime. Allows victims of federal violent and sex crimes to speak at the sentencing of their assailants. Strengthens requirements for sex offenders and child molesters to pay restitution to their victims. Improves the Federal Crime Victims Fund and the victim-related programs it supports. Creates new crimes or enhances penalties for drive-by shootings, use of semi-automatic weapons, sex offenses, crimes against the elderly, interstate firearms trafficking, firearms theft and smuggling, arson, hate crimes, and interstate domestic violence. Immigration initiatives. Crime bill contains specialized enforcement provisions respecting immigration and criminal aliens. Those programs are highlighted here. $1.2 billion for border control. $1.8 billion to reimburse states for incarceration of illegal criminal aliens. Enhanced penalties for failure to depart the U.S. after deportation order or re-entry after deportation. Now, they tried to clean that shit up with, Obama. You know what I'm saying? The dapper shit. Okay? They ain't did nothing for us to help remedy the situation that they used to lock our asses up. And most black men have been locked up for nonviolent drug-related offenses. Although they even sell and use drugs at lower rates than white people do. But we already said that shit. Expedited deportation for aliens who are not lawful permanent residents. Statutory authority for abused spouses and spouses with abused children. To petition for permanent residency or suspension of deportation.
Who's that for?
That's for men. That's for women. Because women don't commit acts of violence against their spouses. They just don't.
You know, right.
Grant programs for 1995. Most of these programs are authorized for 6 years, beginning in October 1994. Some are formula grants awarded to states or localities based on population, crime rate, or some other combination of factors. Many are competitive grants. All grants will require an application process, blah, yada, yada, yada. Brady implementation. Competitive grant program for states to upgrade criminal history records so as to permit compliance with the Brady Act. $100 million. In addition to the Brady Act authorizes $100 million for fiscal year 96, $50 million of this amount is authorized to be expended from the Violent Crime Control Act Trust Fund. Burn grants. Go ahead. You want to say something?
Man, if people think this is about crime, look at how much money you done already talked about. If the crime, it don't even matter about the crime. They'll manufacture it, which they did. Because as soon as you impoverish people, you remove the jobs, create a climate where you have increased inflation, it's gonna already happen. And then you lock them up, if not kill them. And then make sure when they get out, they can't vote. And maybe have to put them back in again because it's the cycle of making more money. Look how many times you done said million and billion reading this.
I'm telling you, this is where the money that was supposed to be allocated for black folks to have it enriched in a better life went into this shit.
Yep.
But this ain't the only law that went into shit like this. Because let me tell you something. Poverty is the parent of crime.
Yes, sir.
Poverty is the parent of crime. If you want to eliminate crime in the community, you invest in the community. You give education opportunities to the citizens in a community, and you afford them the opportunity to move up the social and political ladder. You invest in their housing so that they, can have something to look forward to and to have pride in.
Look, man, my very first day of freshman year in college, my first class was a sociology class, 101. Very first day. Professor said, it is a sociological fact that if you remove employment or employment options in a given community, crime goes up. He didn't say in black communities. He said it's a sociological fact. That was the very first thing I learned in the very first class I took on the very first day of undergrad. But we act like this shit is just, it's just black. Okay.
That's an ancient understanding.
Yeah.
That's Aristotle. He basically says poverty is the parent of crime and revolution.
It is. But we'll get into pathologizing each other around people navigating poverty. How does that work? Especially for those of us that grew up in poverty and will still turn around and pathologize each other, not looking at the environment and the history that we've been talking about this whole time that led us up to where we are. None of this shit is accidental. This is social engineering.
Look here, bro. At the end of the day, where are black people getting their culture from, keep it 100? Like, most of the mob boss shit that, like, black people are into, they get from fucking movies, Scarface and shit, The Godfather. You got niggas out here calling themselves Luca Brasi and shit. You got, like, rappers from Houston. The motherfucker's name is Scarface. I mean, I like the Ghetto Boys and all, but goddamn, our culture is grafted Like Biggie Smalls. It's grafted from fucking blaxploitation films and shit. It's unfortunate.
This is crazy, man.
I'm just saying. I'm just saying. Let me continue reading this shit so we can get through it, man. Community police, burn grants, formula grant program for states for use in more than 20 law enforcement purposes, including state and local drug task efforts. $450 million apportioned for the formula grant program in 95, $550 million authorized in 96 through 2000 for both formula and discretionary. Community policing. You ever heard of that implemented in any community? I don't know. All it is just put more cops on the street. That's what the shit is. 100,000 police officers on the streets in community policing programs. $1.3 billion available in 95. $7.5 billion authorized in 1996 through 2000.
Let me ask you a question, Gigi.
Go ahead.
Now, this has to do with funding around law enforcement. Whether it was formal or informal, how much money would you say went into shaping media around this very same set of ideas regarding black men?
But that shit been a part of their media. Like the first movie, the first motion picture ever created was an anti-black male campaign, propaganda campaign.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Like the entertainment industry, like the motion picture industry owes a debt to an anti-black male slogan campaign, a slogan campaign.
So you talking about the early part of the early 20th century, birth of a nation, all the way up, and we're dealing with mid-90s, so we'll stay in that range. So from early 20th century to mid-90s, right? You got a campaign around framing black masculinity around savagery. You couple that with policy, with resources directed toward policy. This isn't even talking about the 1970s. This is the 90s. As you said, this is the what did you put? How did you put it? The icing?
This is the exclamation point, the icing on the cake.
Right. So the cake was already been baked. This is the 90s. This is the icing on it. How many fucking billions of dollars went into where we are? And the only thing we can do is turn around and chastise each other. I'm like, do you understand? This is billions upon billions over generations fixated on undermining black men and building a whole economy, multiple economies off of that one gesture. This is Jim Sidanius's work in fucking lights and camera. I mean, it's just manifest. And we turn around criticizing each other for how we wear our pants. Are you serious? This is a whole nother level. We have to be able to function in dialogue on a whole nother level. We got to get out of this fucking narrative that if you just wear your pants right, you hang out with right people, you know what I mean? That it's at the point where if you are not going to voluntarily engage in what you've been socialized to do, especially if you live in a poor area since you were a child, because they come at you in elementary with this shit. Well, most particularly when they start putting you into special ed because they don't like your ass. It starts early. But even beyond all that, if they can't get you to commit the crime through socialization, they will manufacture the shit because this is about billions of dollars.
Bro, like they had pig laws. They had pig laws for black people, man. you know what the fuck is a pig law? You can't kill like rabid hogs on your property without a hunting license. They had vagrancy laws, walking too close to the railroad tracks laws.
Yes. Yes. Do you know you could be incarcerated for hurting a white man's feelings? Did you know that?
I didn't know that. What law was that?
This was right after the formal end of slavery, right around Reconstruction. Right, they were looking for ways to reacquire free labor, particularly in the South. You could literally be incarcerated for hurting a white man's feelings. This is how fucking nebulous this shit was, because it was around reacquiring that free labor. That was the focus. So we're talking about something that has been in. I mean, we can talk about when it started, but damn, we've seen waves of it for fucking generations.
Bro, this shit been going on since Reconstruction. Like this is the technology of it. But like, you know, look, you can't fault somebody for, you know, going to prison for a violent crime like murder or rape or something like that, okay? But we talking about the vast majority of the black male population being arrested for nonviolent drug-related offenses.
Right.
Low-level drug dealers with less than, like, most people, man, on the corner selling rocks ain't got motherfucking a half a key, dog. I'm sorry to tell you.
When I talk about systemic anti-black misandry, this is what we're talking about. I'm not just talking about a few people or a few women that just hate men because somebody broke their heart or because they saw a movie that they thought was real. I'm saying this shit has been entrenched in policy, formal and informal. Because informally speaking, there's a lot more to talk about. The formation of the Klan is informal. Who do they target? Who are the primary, you know, targets of lynching? This shit is not, I mean, it's not accidental. Formal or informal, when we talk about institutionalized anti-black misandry, this is what it is. And it's a multi-billion-dollar, multi-generational investment.
The average drug dealer, man, makes $20,000 a year, bro. I'm just keeping it a buck, right? Like, I know when I was fucking around doing shit I wasn't supposed to, man, I would probably make, you know, I would probably net $1,500 to $2,000 a week. But I wasn't no big high-level dope dealer. But I had more dope than them niggas had. But you gotta think, making $1,000 to $1,500 a week is a middle-class salary, dog. It's middle class. These guys ain't living like Nino Brown ain't. This is unrealistic, man. It's unrealistic.
And a couple of years ago, they did reports on people that were doing Uber, right? And they would take over a year to 2-3 year period, and they would take all that you've earned and all that you paid to do Uber, and they figured out that basically it was minimum wage. If you took the average brother who's been involved in some aspect of drug dealing, and you looked at his life over a multi-year period, including incarceration, what do you think that would end up being? You just pointed to $20,000 a year. When you add in incarceration and look at it over time, what would that look like?
Man, all I'm saying is, you know, look, yeah, it ain't no money for real, and it ain't no future in it. You may as well not do the shit. The drug game is dead. I mean, it was cats in New York balling like a motherfucker, making a lot of cash, and on the West Coast. But the police cracked down on that shit. It's a wrap. They ain't cracked down on the white boys. It's more dope on Wall Street than it's ever been in Compton, bruh. You need to, like, I'm just keeping it a buck, man. You think dope ain't at Harvard?
Right.
It ain't at Yale? You think that shit ain't at Brown? You think it ain't no dope in Brown, at Brown University, bruh? Or Harvard or Yale? If you think that, that's a goddamn lie. I know white man, I done talked to white boys, man, from all walks of life, whatever. PhDs, attorneys, police, the whole nine. They've all had experience with drugs. They've all had experiences with dope. Hard dope. Meth, cocaine, pills and shit. Like, what is this shit? I don't even know what it is. All I was told was say no.
Mm.
Don't get high on your own supply. Don't do it.
Right.
Don't, because I've seen the toll that it can take on people. You know what I'm saying? Like, and I never wanted to get myself to the point where I would ever become a basehead. I just, I couldn't see myself living like that. I couldn't. I mean, but all of this, the larger point in all of this is, this shit was cooked up for us. This was developed for us. The 94 crime bill is an announcement to the American populace. We're going to be tough on these niggas. We're going to put these niggas in jail. And we're going to lock them up for a long time. So there, you don't have to be afraid.
And added in a little bit on the Latinos.
Oh yeah, we're gonna stop the
measure.
We're gonna lock these Dagos up. We're gonna build a wall. We're gonna stop them, the illegals, from coming in, even though they took this shit from their asses. They snatched this shit from them, man, through force and fraud. I was having a conversation with a white boy the other day. I was like, hey man, you real tough on these so-called illegal immigrants and shit, but you legal? You came to this motherfucker with disease and fraud and the breaking of treaties and the imposition of greed was what basically put you here.
Why are you bringing up all that history? I'm not responsible for
this. This is the shit they don't want white people to have to learn about, because they want white people to believe that everything about them is good and shit. This, like,
you keep bringing up the past. That's just the past. It's not, that has nothing to do with today. That's the past.
They done put billions of dollars into your disenfranchisement. Billions. Mm-hmm. They put billions of dollars into the enfranchisement of white women.
Right. Exactly.
We get $1 billion of punishment. They get billions of dollars in social promotion. And then the shit went, unfortunately, then the gay people picked up on the shit, the Civil Rights Act. So it went from women to gays. Now it's like all mixed up together. Black gays and black gay women, trans women, and all this shit. All based on the fucking Civil Rights Act. Mm. And what do Negroes get? Community policing. They put billions upon billions of dollars into this, bro. Designed specifically for you. Now, I mean, I'm not saying that white people don't get caught in the crosshairs of this shit, because they do. But, I mean, primarily, it's your black ass. Mm-hmm. For a nonviolent crime, the white boys committing all over America. And what's their excuse? Niggas sell dope outdoors.
Wow. Wow.
Because niggas outdoors selling dope. You know what it really means? Niggas are porch monkeys. That's what that shit really means to me.
That's what it really means.
Niggas are porch monkeys.
God damn.
Seriously, man. I mean, that's what it means.
Oh my God.
They're not smart enough. They're not as smart as white people to keep it concealed. Like white people don't know each other doing dope and shit. Like the police don't know the white boys be doing dope at their little house parties and shit, where the dope is every fucking word. And they playing loud ass music and shit. Girls passing out and shit. Getting raped in the back room. And they act like niggas the ones doing this. Mm.
Oh man. I got
So
it.
anyway, look. Community schools. Formula grant program administered by the Department of Health and Human Services for supervised after-school weekend and summer programs for at-risk youth. 25 million available in 95. I guess that's okay. 567 million authorized between 95 and 2000. But damn, it ain't billions. We talking about millions versus billions, but I mean, I guess correctional facilities, boot camps, formal and competitive grant program for state correctional agencies to build and operate correctional facilities, including boot camps and other alternatives to incarceration to ensure that additional space will be available to put and keep violent offenders incarcerated. 50% of money will be set aside for those states which adopt truth in sentencing laws. Violent offenders must serve at least 85% of their sentence or meet other conditions. 24.5 million in competitive funds available for boot camps in 1995. 7.9 billion authorized between 1996 and 2000. Meaning we gonna put you niggas in militaristic style training camps to re-engineer you to not be a criminal. I know cats that went through a boot camp program.
What was the outcome?
I mean, shit. Some guys went back to selling dope. Some guys, was like, fuck it. This is my opportunity to switch it and change it up.
Mm-hmm.
Let's check it out. Drug courts. Competitive grants to support state and local drug courts, which provide supervision and specialized services to offenders with rehabilitation potential. Sure. 25 million available in 95. 971 million authorized from 96 to 2000.
Hey, 29 million in 95, 971 authorized for 96 to 2000. God damn.
Drug courts. Wow. Family and community endeavor schools. Competitive grants program administered by the Department of Education for localities and community organizations to help improve the overall development of at-risk youth living in poor and high-crime communities. You ever seen a family and a community endeavor school? What the fuck is it? This program is for both in-school and after-school activities. 11 million available in 95, 232 million authorized. This should be the leading thing.
Exactly.
This is where all the money should be.
Which tells you they're not interested in prevention. It's far more profitable to focus on
punishment.
Yeah, punishment.
Hotline, competitive grant program administered by the Department of Health and Human Services to establish a national domestic violence hotline, which is all women based.
Mm-hmm.
1 million authorized in 95, 2 million authorized in 96, 2000. Prevention Council provides funding.
Wait. Huh? As far as the hotline is concerned, this is important though, because one of the things it does is it further puts the power of this whole legislation around violence against women more so in the hands of the everyday woman. It's an investment in that, because as you said, it's not designed around men. It's not really designed around victims of abuse. It really is designed around empowering women in terms of women having the means to lock your ass up, even if it's a false accusation without evidence, simply because she can. We had hashtag believe all women before there was such a thing as a hashtag on Twitter. It already existed. This was an investment in the means to give everyday women that power. Go ahead.
Prevention Council provides funding for the President's Prevention Council to coordinate new and existing crime prevention programs. 1.5 million available in 95, 88.5 million authorized for competitive grants in 96 through 2000. SCAP grants. Formula grant program to reimburse states for the cost of incarcerating criminal aliens. 130 million available in 95, 1.6 billion authorized in 1996 to 2000.
Wow.
Violence against women. Formula grant program to support police and prosecutor efforts and victim services in cases involving sexual violence, which men are also subjected to. But this is all about women, though, you know. Or domestic abuse, and for other programs which strengthen enforcement and provide services to victims in such cases. 26 million available in 95, 774 million in formula grants, and over 200 million for competitive grants authorized in 96 through 2000.
So, real quick, the reason why there's such hostility at the whole conversation around men experiencing abuse,
that money,
that very thing. This is why they don't want to hear from your Tommy Currys, your Green Gorillas. They don't want to hear from those brothers who are pointing out data that shows that men are victims, more particularly data around who is actually victimized more. I showed y'all some of the reports a few months ago around that. And this has been known, but they don't want that information out there because it really comes down to access to federal and philanthropic resources. It's not a moral argument. They don't care about whether or not men are getting shot, killed, beat up, and nobody and men can't even call the police. It's not about that. It's about this. It's all money.
Man, I already told people I'm gonna stop sharing this and go here. Okay. Let me see here. A preview of the PDF is not available. I know I got this motherfucker somewhere though. Hold on for 1 second, bro. Okay, bro. God damn. I want to show this though. I feel like it's my duty to show this shit. So I'll stop sharing that screen. I'll share another screen real quick. Present screen. Window to the wall. Okay. I don't know if you can see this, but I can see it. Let me make it bigger.
I can't read it, but I can see it.
I'm gonna make it bigger. Now you should be able to see it.
Okay.
To some degree.
Right.
Make it bigger.
Thank you.
Can you see it now?
Much better, yeah.
So this is Martin Firebird. He works at the Department of Psychology at California State. He used to, but I don't know if he still works there. But this is old. This is like 2013. This is an annotated bibliography, right? With over 343 scholarly research projects, right? 270 of them are empirical, and you got 73 review and or analysis documents, which demonstrate that women are as physically aggressive or more aggressive than men in their relationships with their spouses or male partners. Over damn near 500,000 people is the test population. Okay, that's a lot of damn people, man. In order to run a scholarly test, it just is. That's a lot. So basically, this is the politicization of domestic violence. This is a bone being thrown to women. It's giving white women what they want, white feminist women what they want for their vote. It just is what it is.
Can I share one real quick?
Go ahead.
Where'd it go? Here.
There we go.
So this was a report that came out, I want to say this might have been 2014, but what it was a study, and it was a meta study of different projects covering intimate partner violence going back to the 1980s. So by meta study, what you're seeing on the left are a list of different IPV studies, and what it showed in this particular slide, because you can see it says rates of bidirectional and unidirectional violence reported among white, Black, and Hispanic ethnic groups from the same sample. What you're seeing that's highlighted is that the bidirectional, the violence toward Black males is higher than any other group, including Black females. Black males are the most abused group in regard to intimate partner violence, according to this meta study that we're looking at. So this is not a study in and of itself. It is a study of multiple studies ranging from the 1980s to 2012, 13, something around there. A meta study of all of those. So they took all those studies, smashed them together, equalized the numbers, and then coded it by race and gender. And the male to female violence and the female to male violence. If you notice, if you look in the the two columns next to those highlighted, you'll see black male to female. You'll see black female to male.
God damn.
So black males are actually the most abused demographic. So when we go back to what Gigi was pointing out monetarily, this is why feminists do not want to hear this shit. This is why feminists do not talk about this in class. You will not see these charts talked about in class because it comes down to resources. So the studies that do put it out, you don't ever hear from. They come out.
Or then they'll make reference to, well, that's just a report, people reporting. Men don't even fucking report what the fuck happens to them in intimate partner relationships. They don't call the police.
Exactly.
None of that shit. You got women who will assault you, and if you get her off your ass, she'll call the police.
Yes. And they will take your ass to jail.
You have women who are so emboldened now, they believe it's their right to be able to assault you, and if you do anything to them, you're violating some moral norm. And you got Negroes, that's a woman. You can't hurt them.
Yeah. Yeah.
You can't imagine harming a woman, but you will allow a woman to commit acts of harm, and you'll stand by and watch it and laugh at it.
Mm-hmm.
The same niggas who will step in to help the woman will sit there and laugh at your ass getting assaulted.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's funny or something.
Yeah, and I put up the study just so anybody wants to research it further. You can. I'll put
put the link in the yeah, go ahead.
There you go.
Yeah, I need that myself.
Yeah, I got you.
Yeah, I need that myself. But like, we just got to start telling the truth, man.
Mm-hmm.
We got to start telling the truth.
Right.
This ain't about hating nobody. It's about, like, if we gonna start trying to fucking, like, lay the facts out, let's lay all the facts out. Let's just not lay the facts out to make certain demographics look good or whatever the case may be. Let's lay bare all the ugly truth about everything.
Mm-hmm.
Let's lay it all out there. Don't lay just the shit that makes you look good out there or gets you money out there. Let's put it all out there. But there's some people that don't want to put it out there because, they want to preserve images and shit like that.
And at the end of the day, man, they want to preserve resources that work in their favor. That's what even all of this stuff about representation and media is about, resources, because at the end of the day, if they condition you to empathize for one group over another, you'll be okay with policy from one group over another. All of this is tied together. They're not arguing about representation just because it makes people feel good. They're arguing about it because it comes down to brass tacks at some point. So when you see a bill pushing $1 billion toward abused women, if you didn't see enough movies from the 1970s onwards where the only people abused were women, you'll nod your head and say, yeah, it's due time for that. That's the point. But if you see a bill for $1 billion toward men who are victims of intimate partner violence, you'll probably laugh. Because it hasn't been conditioned. We haven't been conditioned to empathize for men. The data is available to those who will look at it, but that's not how information is put out these days. It's put out in terms of what emotionally moves people in media. You can have the data, but you also need the Hollywood apparatus to acclimate the people to these ideas. That's what's been happening with LGBT and all this shit. We've been acclimated. Not fully, because the latest gay movie that came out bombed, I think, with 5 million the other day. But but enough to where the movie got made. That movie wouldn't have been made 10, 20, 30 years ago.
What was the name of the Bros or some shit like
Bros.
that?
Yeah, I think that's what it was. Yeah.
Oh man,
the
this shit
process
crazy.
of acclimating is underway, and that's one of the things we talk about here. So we're still at the stage of getting out the raw information. But that's
Hey,
all.
bro, that's crazy, man. Motherfuckers got a movie named Bros. Like, hey, man, it is what it is, man. You know, whatever floats your boat. But, you know, look, they say, okay, we got these grant programs also. All of them are going to be available in 95, and they will be continued. All programs are administered by the Department of Justice unless otherwise noted. Now, again, isn't it ironic that the Department of Justice was initially created to protect black people from white terrorism? Now it's become the hand of black terrorism. It has become terroristic in and of itself. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
So anyway, all programs available in 95 are continued. Funding for 96 through 2000 is and always subject to appropriation by Congress. Battered women's shelters. Competitive grant program administered by the Department of Health and Human Services for battered women's shelters and other domestic violence prevention activities. So it's only something that women experience, nothing that men experience. And it creates this shit creates the same kind of psychic effects for men as it does for women.
Exactly.
But fuck a nigga psychic state. Who gives a fuck, right?
Or a young boy.
Man. Capital improvements to prevent crime in public parks. Competitive grant program administered by the department. So in other words, let's get the niggas out of the park. Too many gang members and niggas selling dope and shit in the parks. Get them out of there. Man, in St. Louis, they used to get Negroes out of the park real fast. Like, you gotta leave this park, bro. What the fuck am I supposed to do? Ain't this supposed to be a public park? Yeah, but you niggas don't know how to use it.
You don't know how to use it.
I mean, shit, you know, it is what it is, man. Community Economic Partnership. Competitive program administered by the Department of Health and Human Services for lines of credit to community development, corporations to stimulate business and employment opportunities for low-income, unemployed, and underemployed individuals. That should be the bulk of what the shit is right there. That's what the bulk of the money should be. $270 million. Not nearly as much as the crime. Crime prevention block grants. $377 million authorized for new local crime prevention block grant program to be distributed to local governments to be used as local needs dictates. Authorized programs include anti-gang programs, sports leagues, boys and girls clubs, partnerships, triads between elderly and law enforcement, police partnerships for children and youth skills programs. Jesus. Delinquent and at-risk youth. Competitive grant program for public and private nonprofit orgs to support the development and operation of projects to provide residential services to youth aged 11 to 19 who have dropped out of school or have come into contact with the juvie system or at risk of either. $36 million. DNA analysis. Competitive program for states to develop or improve DNA identification capabilities. $40 million. An additional $25 million is authorized to the FBA for DNA programs. Drug treatment. $383 million for prison drug treatment programs, and including $270 million in formula grants for states. I've participated in the drug treatment program so I can get out of jail early. I said I smoked some weed. Oh, you're eligible. Thank you.
He said you're eligible.
I love Budweiser. Oh, you're eligible. Thank you.
I'm sorry.
Up, man. Shit, that's 9 months, man. Off your sentence. Shit, that's 9 months. Anyway, Education and prevention to reduce sexual assaults against women. Jesus Christ, man. Competitive grant program administered by the Department of Health and Human Services to fund rape prevention and education programs in the form of educational seminars, hotlines, and training programs for professionals and the preparation of informational materials. Like they're the only motherfuckers that get sexually assaulted. I showed this earlier, right? Like, hold on. Sexual assault. Hold on, let me look this shit up. I might not be able to find it, but I know I put it in one of my older videos. So yeah, I mean, this is just an Atlantic article, but you know, you got all kind of different. This Atlantic article. Let me stop sharing that screen and share the other one. Chrome tab. The understudy female sexual predator. According to new research, sexual victimization by women is more common than gender stereotypes would suggest. 2 years ago, Laura Stemple, the director of UCLA's Health and Human Rights Law Project, came upon a statistic that surprised her. An incidence of sexual violence reported to the National Crime Victim Survey, 38% of victims were men, a figure much higher than in prior surveys. When intrigued, she began to investigate. Was sexual violence against men more common than previously thought? The inquiry was a timely one. For years, the FBI definition of rape was gendered, requiring carnal knowledge of a female forcibly and against her will. But a recent redefinition focused instead on forced penetration with no mention of gender. Meanwhile, other data gatherers had started to track a new category of sexual violence that the Centers for Disease Control call being forced to penetrate. And still others were keeping better track of sexual violence in prisons. Taken together, the new data challenged widely held beliefs. So we already been over that. That's something we discussed and talked about quite often. You know, like that the new category basically it basically levies the damn playing field with the claims of who's being assaulted and who's not.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, let me share the other screen. I'm ready to be done with this shit, bro. Hold on. Chrome tab. But you can see all this money, man. Look, we almost done with it. Model intensive grants, competitive grant program for model crime prevention programs targeted at high crime neighborhoods. Up to 15 cities will be selected. Police Corps, competitive funding for Police Corps, college scholarships for students who agree to be police. $100 million for authorized police corps and $100 million authorized for in-service law enforcement scholarships, prosecutors, competitive grant program for state, local courts, prosecutors, and public defenders, rural law enforcement. Look how much they allocated to that shit. $240 million, bro. That's what do you think, like the Ozarks, what do you think all the meth is, bro? I know in Missouri it's in the Ozarks.
Mm-hmm.
Or they call it Southern Missouri. That's where all the dope is. White boy dope. But they don't really, I mean, you know, they have begun to crack down on them, but they really ain't cracking down on white boys for real, man. Technical automation. Competitive grant program to support technological improvements for law enforcement agencies and other activities to improve law enforcement training and information systems. Urban recreation for at-risk youth, $4.5 million authorized. So you see the trends, bro. You see the trends, man.
This is ridiculous.
So most of the shit is dedicated and allocated to prisons, police, and That's just how the game is, man. Prisons and more police. Prisons and police, man.
Yeah.
That's where the bread went, bro. It is what it is. The bread could have been used to revitalize the black community. It could have went in to programs like, okay, the white people got in order to get houses and shit.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
But fuck all that. No, we not gonna do that. No. We gotta stop this crime now. Gotta like these niggas out right now.
Man, I'm done. I can't. This shit is ridiculous.
But we have to look at it.
This is where we have to start taking the conversation, right? And this is one of the reasons that you know, some of us came to the manosphere. You got black men having a conversation I've never seen black men have in my lifetime. I don't think my grandfather ever saw it. But we got to elevate the conversation, because this is the level of the game that's being used against us, that's been strategized against us for generations. It's not an accident. None of this shit is an accident, from incarceration to how much our own women hate us. None of it is an accident. It's all been cultivated. Been cultivated, man.
Yeah, it is what it is. And you know, a lot of people don't believe what I'm saying, so gotta show you one more thing, man, then I'm off of this, man. And we can just wrap it up. But like, see that? White women benefit most from affirmative action.
They're among his fiercest opponents.
How ironic is that shit? That's almost like Clayton Bixby or some shit. you know what I mean? Because the perception is that it actually works for us, when in actuality it's working for them.
Right.
They just don't like it when it doesn't work for them, and somebody else gets an opportunity behind them.
Yeah. And they came in at a key moment where a lot of these dollars were targeted at black men and the black community, and they usurped all of it. And when you look at double minority status, they gave black women a piece of it, kicked black men out of the conversation altogether. And our women turned around and said, y'all niggas are trifling because you can't work the way we got jobs. Why can't you just work harder? This is bullshit.
Bruh. A 1995 report by the California Senate Government Organization Committee found that white women held the majority of managerial jobs compared with African Americans. They have 57,000. African Americans have 10,000, Latinos 19,000, and Asian Americans 24,000. After the first 2 decades of affirmative action in the private sector. In 2015, a disproportionate representation of white women business owners set off concerns that New York State would not be able to bridge a racial gap among public contractors. 95 report by the Department of Labor found that 6 million women overall had advances at their job that would have not been possible without affirmative action. The percentage of women physicians tripled between 1970 and 2002. From 7.6% to 25.2%. And in 2009, women were receiving a majority of bachelor's, master's, and doctoral degrees, according to the American Association of University Women. To be clear, these numbers include women of all races. However, breaking down affirmative action beneficiaries by race and gender seems to be rare in reported data. Contrary to popular belief, affirmative action isn't just black, it's white too. But affirmative action's white female faces are rarely at the center of the conversation. They're the primary beneficiaries of the shit, bro. It is what it is. They hijacked the Civil Rights Act and all the shit that was intended for black folks. It just is what it is. So look, why was affirmative action created? Affirmative action was initiated by the administration of President Lyndon Johnson in order to improve opportunities for African Americans while civil rights legislation was dismantling the legal basis for discrimination. Now, how is it that it went from that to white women being able to have the lion's share of the boons and the benefits that come from it? That's not affirmative action for us. It's not our affirmative action. It wasn't our affirmative action. If you don't believe me, this is the last thing I'm gonna show. The Encyclopedia Britannica, affirmative action. Affirmative action was initiated by the administration of Lyndon Johnson in order to improve opportunities for African Americans, while civil rights legislation was dismantling the legal basis for discrimination. So how is it something that was dedicated and allocated to improve the condition of us become something that primarily benefited white women?
And became a weapon used against us. Yep, absolutely.
And at the very time that these women were in the universities getting, their access, they was fucking trampling on us, telling us, these niggas are savages, rapists, abusers, and we need to lock their ass up. Thank you, white ladies.
Yeah.
Thank you. Appreciate your help. Thanks for all your support.
And nearly doubled the white family income.
Man, look here, bro. Any closing remarks, man? We had to go through this. I'm just tired of hearing Negroes on the left. Look, I love Negroes. I respect you. Left or right, whatever the case may be, you can think what you want to think, but let's not make the mistake and act like both of these people in these parties really love us.
Yep, absolutely.
They'll turn their back on your ass quick, fast, and 100 in order to get some votes and to keep their ass in office. And they don't even give a fuck about the average white people either. They don't give a fuck about them people, man.
And this is why I shout out BGS with amoral pragmatism. This is why I shout out Nameless, political Mandalorianism. I don't advocate for one fucking party over the other either way. What I advocate for is that we establish what politics we as a demographic, as black men and boys need. And we engage, barter, and give no one our votes that doesn't come to the table and deal. That's what I advocate for. So at the end of the day, as opposed to hopping from one to the other as if our quality of life changes under either, we advocate for the policies that mean the most to us, that improve our lives. That's the conversation we need to be having. Because this shit over personalities and right and left and red and blue, it doesn't work. It's a parlor game. It's a parlor game.
It's going to get people views and shit and clicks and shit during the election cycle. So motherfuckers going to talk about it and get all amped up about it. But, at the end of the day, if you don't have anything that you're requiring or demanding of your representative, how the fuck can they even think about representing you? How? You don't even have your interest being articulated. You don't even have an interest. Your interest is whatever they program you to have.
Yeah. And we get into wars over it.
And look, I have my criticisms of the left and the right. But when it comes to the 94 crime bill, they were both in agreement. Let's lock these niggas up.
More agreement. They were competing with each other to see who could push it further. And we over here hopping from one foot to the next, arguing with each other about which one's better.
They were in a pissing contest over how quickly and how efficiently they can lock niggas up. Men, no.
Right.
Black men.
Nobody else.
They were in competition. A pissing or spitting contest to see how efficiently and expeditiously they can lock our black asses up. And we supposed to think that, oh, well, if we vote right or left, we're voting either for good or evil.
And
that's how they presented, like a Manichaean dualism, like a Zoroastrian dualism.
Yeah, yep. We playing checkers, they playing chess. It really ain't much more complicated than that. We looking at red and black pieces and who we can jump over. They are playing chess. We arguing about personalities on TV.
And like at the end of the day, man, like cats don't even know how to play chess. They don't even want to play chess. They just want to moist, wet, what the one dude from Mediocre Tutorials and Reviews called viscous innards. That's all they care about, bro.
Oh, damn. Damn.
How can I get the viscous innards?
Wow.
How can I be more of a man so I can get access to the viscous innards? No shade on the guy, but I mean, like, come on, bro. Like, why are you guys constantly, like, being, like, tripping off relationships and shit? Like, what's the use of having one when you get into one, the motherfucker can take half your shit and she gonna get the kids anyway? And just, like, would you enter into a business deal if you knew that the failure rate was 70 to 80%?
I think the best example I heard is somebody said, would you jump out of a plane if you knew it was an 80% chance your chute wasn't going to open?
Why do it? I mean, I'm just saying, if you're a man, look, everybody wants to have a family, children, progeny, and shit like that. But under these conditions, they've made it hostile. They made it to where men don't have any recourse. And women will not admit that they have any privileges. They won't admit it. They will not fucking admit it. Will not. Refuse to admit it.
They have weaponized the black family against itself to the point where, practically speaking, it doesn't make sense to do the basic shit that people used to just be able to do, like get married or have a child. Basic shit is now a problem that can have you locked up without a driver's license, all of that, over basic shit that people used to just be able to do.
Bruh, look, you supposed to, like, now they done made it, like, to be easier for you to cut your gonads off and to get a goddamn operation, to block your estrogen or your testosterone than it is for you to fucking hook up with the opposite sex, which is required for the repopulation of the planet. But me and BGS talked about this shit, man. Like, the era of patriarchy, the empire of the father has been dismantled. But the people who really capitalize off of it are lawyers, judges, and politicians. They profit from the dissolution of the family. They get money from this. Their pensions are funded by this shit. They get money off of this. So they control. One of the things in nature is you bond, you link up with a woman, and you raise your children and shit like that. You can't do that no more, bro. Not in this motherfucker. Can't do it. I mean, not to say it's impossible, but it's likely that you won't be able to get through it. It's likely that it'll end in a lot of fucking animosity and vitriol over absolutely fucking nothing, bro.
She's incentivized to pull that switch.
Over absolutely nothing. So, yeah, I'm not, look, I've already, before I knew better, I thought about family. I'm like, okay, this is what I'm supposed to do. I'm supposed to, reproduce and have a family and be tethered to a woman, and whatever life gives to us, we're gonna handle it, because I'm intelligent, she's intelligent. I guess we're gonna be able to get through this grid and have all we ever dreamed of. But not these motherfuckers, boy. It's impossible damn near sometimes, man, to fucking just be in a basic agreement over simple shit. Then it just takes a whole different turn. Then you get, like bureaucrats involved in the shit. Right. Then they tell you you're a problem. You're a problem. You want to control me. Bitch, you controlling me. You're using the state to, ain't that some shit? They using the state to control you, but they telling you control it.
Right. Yeah.
Boy, that's a hell of a game, man. It's a hell of a game out here, bro. I'm telling you.
What they use to make the argument is they resort to arguments about physical abuse. Because you're bigger, you're more capable more often than not as a man. The idea is you're physically controlling her or threatening her. But when you start to talk about all these other institutions that she has at her behest, those are, they're less visible. They're intangible. So in the conversation, you standing over her is far more of a threat than the fact that she has all of these different institutions at her disposal, including
in a minute, a bitch will get mad at you and say, I'm calling the police, nigga. I'm calling the police. This bitch done slapped you in the face and shit. I'm calling the police. Huh?
We talking.
Man, this is, hey, bro, I swear to God, man. To me, I know it might sound fucked up, but I hope that there is a hell. I hope that there's a hell. And then motherfuckers that take advantage of systems like that and know that they being duplicitous and working intentionally to fuck up people's lives and shit like that, I hope they fucking burn in eternal damnation. Sheol, Hades, Tartaros, whatever the fuck. I hate to say it. It's just how I feel. And that's just my feel. That's gut feeling. That's how I feel. I know, we say don't use how you feel, but working, that is oppression to me. Mm-hmm. Oppression is doing the best that you can to make sure that another individual doesn't have the capacity to function, flourish, and thrive.
Good. Queen Kalila said, and I know several women who need a reservation. God damn. Look, man, I talked to a brother. For long-time listeners, of my show, I told a story a couple years ago about a brother who reached out to me, and he told me his boy has built himself up a business. He's a six-figure earning brother, but 10, 15 years ago, he did some time. So he married a younger woman. She was in her 30s. And one night he came home late for work. She had him arrested because she assumed he was cheating. I didn't ever get a part two because I hadn't talked to the cat in a minute. He called me yesterday. I said, man, while I got you on the phone, whatever happened to that guy, that brother you told me about? He said, oh, well, she's done that 2 or 3 times since that. So he's been in and out of jail several times behind her making accusations because she's thinking he's cheating whenever he comes home late from work. This is where we at. And it's not to say every woman does this. It's to say that she can do it. And there's no incentive preventing her from flexing because she has the ability to. That's the question. If she has the ability to, and there are no checks and balances that protect you, what you gonna do? So again,
hey man, right now they don't weaponize.
Going back to the 14-point political agenda, that's one of the reasons that family court reform is the number one point brothers contribute to, because they're trying to address these powers that she has that you don't. But go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, man, it's hell out here right now. And they don't understand. They don't give a fuck because they don't have to live it. They don't really give a fuck. All they want to do is call us dusty and crusty and shit like Jamel Hill. Man, fuck that lady, man. Real talk, man. I hate, you make light of our experience like we just some bum ass niggas out here that just don't like women. No, we don't like injustice. We don't like deferential treatment given to you over a narrative created by some phony ass white bitches. More than likely, like these whole man, these motherfuckers own slaves and shit. Now they narrative is the paramount narrative in politics. The Democratic left is all up in white women's politics and shit. Oh, we love them, yeah. I showed, man, like many videos of shit slides and pictures and shit where you got these motherfuckers holding signs. Not my kids. Not with these niggers. Get them out of here. I don't want to live around. Now all of a sudden they're a minority. They don't make as much money as the richest white dudes. Fuck out of here, man. I'm done with this shit, bro. This is why sometimes I don't even want to get on, because all I'm gonna do is get mad as fuck and say something, that's gonna get me kicked off and deplatform.
I hear you. That's
why
you see us taking breaks. But go ahead.
But tomorrow I will be on with Sandog and the Nameless Protagonist, and we're gonna talk about the follow-up. And I'm gonna let them do most of the talking, because this shit takes up a lot of energy, bro. You know what I'm saying? Like this shit is some real serious shit. And to know that like nobody else really actually cares about any of it, and don't even want to walk through the steps of it and look at the various facets and phases of it, and like to just ignore it all. Like our investment, that the things that could have been allocated to our improvement have been allocated towards our confinement. Mm-hmm. And you've seen step by step you've seen in an itemized fashion what that looks like.
Yep. And that was 1994.
And it's off the Richter scale now. It's like on steroids now.
Yeah.
It's like taking this gospel truth now. So if you say anything that runs contrary to it, you get met with claims of being, a hate speaker. You hate people. You hate us.
Yeah, we're 30 years past that. Wonder what the itemization looks like now.
And I understand it. I understand why a black woman would say, let's vote for the Dems, because they get something from it. I get it. But you got to get where I'm coming from. Like, if you don't care, hey, look, this shit ain't working for me, baby boo. Sorry. But you have to be able to explain why. But most brothers don't even know, but they're beginning to get the language together because we're giving it to them. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? But not to say I'm the only one. This is a collective effort. This is an effort of many minds coming together trying to make sense. This is a hermeneutical enterprise, a social hermeneutical enterprise, a social interpretation process where brothers are like, what the fuck is happening to us?
Right.
It ain't just me dictating what it is. It's us figuring it out together, putting piece and piece together, like a jigsaw puzzle. But that picture is coming, it's getting damn near 4K. It once was at some low resolution, could barely see it, 240 pixels. Now that motherfucker getting close to being, pretty damn clear.
Mm-hmm.
So
the last thing I'll say, brother, is we need to take this conversation to a deeper level that fixates on our experience and what we need, and advocate for it unapologetically with no hesitation. We need to move on it, fellas.
And I'm a firm believer in Ice Cube's strategy. I'm talking to whichever party will listen. If the Democrats won't listen because they've hedged their bets on this, and I'm going to the right then, or the independents then. And if you don't listen to it, I'm like, okay, well, fuck all y'all then. And I'm still gonna argue from the mountaintops that this is what's in our best interest, not the shit you talking about. And then and then be able to back it up with data.
Exactly.
And arguments that are better than the ones that have been made by the people who've actually been able to influence the politicians.
Yeah.
In recent years. Because I think our arguments are better than theirs. I think our data demonstrates more fully what the accurate picture is, as opposed to one that's just purely ideological. And yeah, sometimes I rant and rave, but we have a right to be indignant about this shit. We have a right to be pissed off about this shit, man.
Well, that's why when Nameless says political Mandalorianism, I say this is the way. So,
and what's the one guy said? I have spoken. You remember that little dude, the little funny dude that the guy knows how to fix
right.
vehicles and shit.
Right.
Yeah, I have spoken.
This is the way. I have spoken.
Yeah, I like that little dude more than anybody else, man. That motherfucker, he said, I have spoken. Like, motherfucker, don't question me on this.
Get out of here, man.
Yeah, but on a side note, man, before we get out of here, I know I want to get, I know it's late, more late on my time than yours, but you been watching Andor, man?
Nah, I haven't been watching it.
Yeah, check out that Andor, man. It really hasn't bubbled up yet, but so far what I've seen is pretty entertaining.
I mean, I've had brothers I trust tell me to. I'm slowly getting to it. I'm not in the meat. I like my Star Wars with Force users, so but I'll check it. I'll check it.
Yeah, okay, man. Well, thank you for coming through, bro. I appreciate you and all you do. I appreciate you for coming through and blessing me with your presence, man. And I ain't been in a while, and every time I get somebody to come back in with me, it makes it less problematic for me to get going again. So appreciate it.
It's all good. I appreciate you having me. And y'all check out the Onyx Network. I'm actually playing a lot of the episodes that Gigi and I did, things of that nature. So support the channel, get it out there. But you can download it on your iPhone, your Android. You can watch it on the web. You can download it, load it on Roku or Amazon Fire TV. Just search Onyx Network, download it, check it out. It's still in the, we just started it a few weeks ago. So if you guys have ideas of what you'd like to see on there, let me know. But we're trying to push this beyond our individual YouTube channels.
Yeah, man. So, the next move is to do more. And we can't trust YouTube because, they'll get rid of your ass. They just got rid of some dude named Scrunchy or something.
Sneeko or something.
Sneeko, there it is.
I don't know. I heard it somewhere.
I called him Scrunchy. My bad, bro. But yeah, Sneeko. They got rid of him and shit. Like you can't even criticize politicians in this country anymore, man. You can't. If they're like, this is the thing I don't like about people like, what's that dude named? They call him like the funny dude with the dreads, the signified monkey. That's him. Yeah, that dude. Like like it's dangerous. It's so dangerous because you're like the things you're talking about might inflame men and lead them to hurt people. Man, cut the bullshit out, bro. We ain't advocating for nobody to get killed or murdered. We saying that y'all, if women doing some fucked up shit, it ought to be let it be known. It is what it is. You can't just talk about how fucked up men are and then just expect for men to just sit back and say, oh, women are just absolutely what they say we are. I mean, women are just, they're explaining this accurately and they have no flaws. No, fuck all that.
Yep. Yeah. I hear you. But y'all have a good one. I appreciate it. Thanks for the invite, good brother.
Yeah, well, thank you, man. I'll holler at you later, bro. I'm about to close out.
All right, man.
Peace. So thank y'all for coming through, man. My voice is getting a little raspy, man. I've been yelling and shit like that and talking loud, but God bless y'all, man. I'll holler at y'all on the next one. See y'all in another one. We'll be with Sandog and the nameless protagonist, man. We gonna chop down and get down tomorrow. So expect us. I'll let y'all later. Peace.